Welcome to Infinite Novel Audio. Subscribe, and enjoy this video. Chapter 101, Victory Against the Emperor. Du Guyan, who was still facing off, laughed when he saw his teammates winning, and looked at Yin Hao not far away and said, "What, aren't you going to take action? If you don't take action, you won't have a chance." As he spoke, he raised his eyebrows at Yin Hao. However, Yin Hao did not respond, and just smiled softly. Just then, a mutation arose. A blue dragon claw and several white feather arrows struck from the left and right sides behind Yin Hao fiercely. Without any mercy, the shot was a killer move. If this claw hits an arrow, it won't cause death, but it will definitely lose combat effectiveness instantly. Seeing this scene, a smile gradually appeared on the face of Du Guyan in front of him. The opponent had already lost one soul sect and one soul lord. If the soul king in front of him was destroyed, there would be no suspense in this battle. But in the blink of an eye, one claw and one arrow came less than 10 centimeters away from Yin Hao, and the three members of the Huangdu team all showed smug smiles. But in the next second, their smiles froze on their faces. I saw that the two attacks that were supposed to land on Yin Hao were suddenly blocked by two blue ice walls, preventing him from advancing an inch. Yu Feng is okay, after all. He used a long-range attack and was far away from Yin Hao, but Yu Tianheng used his own dragon claws. Feeling the hard force from the blue-silver grass ice wall, he couldn't help being shocked. He quickly retracted his left hand and raised his right hand, preparing to go around the ice wall and strike again, but unfortunately Yin Hao would not give him this chance. He didn't even look back. He just waved the blue-silver Overlord spear back slightly, and the Overlord spear whizzed away, heading straight for Yu Tianheng. Yu Tianheng was shocked when he saw this, and quickly withdrew his right hand that hadn't been attacked yet, and crossed his hands to block Yin Hao's attack. Crack, click, ah. The dragon claw collided with the gun body, making a crisp sound. Then came Yu Tianheng's scream. I saw Yu Tianheng being swept away several meters by a gunshot, and then he was hit hard on the ground. He was holding his right forearm and sweating heavily between his teeth. Tianheng. Seeing Yu Tianheng's hand, Du Guyan exclaimed. Although she had deliberately kept a distance from Yu Tianheng in the past 6 months, the relationship between them had indeed dissipated a lot. But the friendship between classmates and friends for so many years is still there, so when seeing Yu Tianheng injured, Du Guyan's heart tightened. Then he looked at Yin Hao with a fierce look on his face. "Do you want to die?" Yin Hao didn't care about this, and even said with a chuckle, "Why should Miss Du Guyan be angry? Being angry will affect your beauty." Du Guyan wouldn't argue with him, so he stopped talking nonsense and mobilized his soul power to rush towards Yin Hao. At the same time, the first 2 soul rings on her body lit up, and 2 rays of light, one red and one blue, flashed on her body, making her even more imposing. Yin Hao didn't care. He didn't even think about using other soul skills, and stood there holding the blue-silver Overlord spear. When Du Guyan rushed in front of him, Yin Hao ducked slightly to the side and came to Du Guyan's left. Then he summoned an ice spike with his left hand and fired it directly towards Yu Feng in the sky. Yu Feng was still flying towards Yu Tianheng's direction. He didn't pay attention to this direction at all, and when he saw it, the ice spikes had already approached. Fortunately, his bailing near Wuhan was agile enough. Although it was dangerous, he dodged it. This wasn't over yet. Before Yu Feng could take a breath, the ice thorn that had passed by exploded instantly. It shattered into several small ice spikes in the air and hit Yu Feng again. Then he was not so lucky. After dodging 2 small ice spikes one after another, he was still hit by an ice spike on his wing and instantly lost his balance. Then, the remaining ice spikes caught up again and hit Yu Feng's body. What? Yu Feng was hit in several places on the shoulder, chest, and waist, and fell directly to the ground, unable to move. Then Zyro Wu, who saw this scene, used his 3rd soul skill to teleport to his side and kicked him off the stage. Of course, Yu Tianheng was also kicked down. Although Yu Tianheng still wanted to resist, how could he be Zyro Wu's opponent with his arm still seriously injured? In just 2 moves, Zyro Wu kicked him in the chest and knocked him down. Now even if there is Yi Lingling, the strongest healing soul master, it is useless. Seeing that Yin Hao was still free to attack others after fighting with him, Du Guyan became even more angry, and the 4th soul ring on his body lit up. The 4th soul skill, Jade Lin's Snake Dance. Then, a big green snake seemed to appear on Du Guyan's body, and it attacked Yin Hao with a flick of its tail. Yin Hao was no longer polite, and with a wave of his right hand, several ice walls appeared instantly. Clap, clap, clap. The 3 ice walls shattered in response, but Du Guyan's soul ability was also blocked. Then the shattered pieces of the ice wall flew up again, and quickly formed a blue ice dragon in the air. The 3rd soul skill, Ice Dragon Art. Yin Hao waved his hand, and the ice dragon roared away, heading straight for Du Guyan. Du Guyan was startled, and then immediately retreated, his 5th and 4th soul rings lighting up at the same time. 5th soul skill, Snake Emperor's Fury, the 4th soul skill, Jade Lin Snake Dance. With the 5th spirit ring lit up, Du Guyan's aura rose again, and if nothing else happened, it should be a spirit ability to increase his own attack power. Then the green snake phantom appeared again and collided with the ice dragon. After a slight stalemate, they both shattered. When the phantoms of the ice dragon and the big snake disappeared, Du Guyan also immediately mobilized his soul power, ready to attack again. But if you take a closer look, how can there be Yin Hao? Before she could react, she just felt a chill on her neck, and a chill came from her neck. Turning his head to look, he saw Yin Hao pointing his blue-silver overlord gun at his neck. You lost, Miss Dugu. Looking at Yin Hao, who was so close, Du Guyan's face turned red from suppressing it, and she wanted to continue to use her soul skills, at least to release her 3rd soul skill to poison him. However, the overlord's spear on her neck was still warning her not to act rashly. Looking at the other side, with Tang San's cooperation, Zyro Wu continued to attack the 2 Shimo, although they couldn't move for a while because of their rough skin and thick flesh. But the 2 of them had no power to fight back. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that it was only a matter of time before they won. As for Oslo's side, he had already fought with Zhu Zhuqing, who had gone around, but the difference in strength between the 2 was too great. After barely receiving Zhu Zhuqing's 2 moves, he was directly pierced by the 8 spider lances behind Zhu Zhuqing and lost his fighting power. As soon as Oslo fell, Yi Lingeling, the assistant, was completely exposed in front of Zhu Zhuqing. If an assassin captures a small assistant, the outcome is natural. Du Guyan glanced at the situation on the field, although he didn't want to admit it, but they were indeed defeated. Immediately, without hesitation, he spoke. Referee, the Huangdu team has surrendered. Chapter 102 Contradictions appear after Du Guyan announced that he would admit defeat. Yin Hao also let go of her directly and gave her a friendly smile. However, Du Guyan didn't appreciate it at all. He snorted coldly and turned around to leave. Yin Hao didn't care either, and turned and left after watching her leave tens of meters away. Back in the audience, except for Ma Hongjun and Dai Mubai, who had ugly faces, everyone else was basically smiling. Yu Xiaogang was not polite. He came directly in front of the 2 with a straight face and reprimanded them. What's going on with you 2? Your soul power level is higher than that of your opponent, and you can be killed instantly by your opponent. Haven't you participated in the training during this period? Where have you been training? Ma Hongjun retorted, somewhat dissatisfied. That can't be blamed on me. I used to fight well with the bird soul master on the opposite side, who knew that Boss Dai was sent flying out just after the fight. I was distracted, and that person caught the loophole. Well. Yu Xiaogang also knew this. After glancing at Ma Hongjun, he turned his head to look at Dai Mubai, who was beside him. Mubai, what's your situation? You like to dress up as a woman, and I won't say anything. After all, that's your freedom. But I can't ignore your cultivation. Can you explain to me what's going on? How could you, a 4th-ring soul master, be knocked away by a 3-ring soul master? Dai Mubai turned his head to look at Ma Hongjun, who was gloating beside him, then turned his face to look at Yu Xiaogang. I don't have anything to explain, it's just that my skills are inferior to people's. As for training, carrying stones or running, is that thing useful? Hearing this answer, Yu Xiaorogang's face turned blue with anger, pointing at Dai Mubai. You, and said for a long time without saying a word. Not far away, when Tang San saw his teacher being so angry, he quickly stepped forward and accused Dai Mubai. Boss Dai, how can you talk to the teacher like this? Apologize. Dai Mubai wouldn't give Tang San face, not to mention that he had a lot of resentment towards Tang San, and he was right. Soul Master battles rely on soul power levels, soul ring configurations, soul bones, various techniques, and self-created soul skills. Which of these has anything to do with carrying stones? Dai Mubai said immediately, very shamelessly. Tang San, I won't stop you if you want to be a dog for your teacher, and I don't care about it, but don't stop others from talking. I haven't settled with you for choosing the fairy grass for me before. You now, what are you doing jumping out? Hearing Dai Mubai's words, Tang San's face immediately darkened, a fierce light flashed in his eyes, and his right hand was fiddling with something in his sleeve. However, after taking a look at the Shrek people around him and the security personnel of the Great Soul Fighting Arena, he still took a few deep breaths and endured it, but the vicious look in his eyes did not disappear at all. This man has a way to die. Seeing that Tang San and Yu Xiaorogang's master and apprentice didn't speak, Dai Mubai snorted contemptuously, then turned and left directly, leaving only one sentence. You don't have to wait for me when you have dinner, I have something else to do. Tang San looked at Dai Mubai's leaving back and didn't know what he was thinking. Yin Hao and Flender, who had just completed the point registration, also came back at this time. Seeing Dai Mubai, who was walking out not far away, Yin Hao still called out. Mubai, what are you doing? Hearing Yin Hao's voice, Dai Mubai stopped and showed a friendly smile. Dai Mubai still had a good impression of Yin Hao, his good friend who often helped him, and then smiled and waved his hand at Yin Hao. I'm going to do something, so I won't have dinner with you, bye. After speaking, he didn't stop and turned to leave. And Yin Hao looked at his leaving back, didn't say anything, just followed Flender back to Shrek's team. As soon as he came back, he saw the black faces of Yu Xiaorogang and Tang San at the first sight. Yin Hao was stunned for a moment, then thought of Dai Mubai who had just left, and he could almost guess what happened. Immediately, he held back his laughter and asked with a look of puzzlement. Mistress Master, what's going on? Why do you look so ugly? Seeing that it was Yin Hao who came back, Yu Xiaorogang forced a smile, and even waved his hands in a magnanimous manner. It's nothing, maybe Mubai is in a bad mood today, it's okay. Zhao Wukai's smile was relatively low. Seeing Yu Xiaorogang's affectation, he almost couldn't hold back, so he could only cover his mouth to keep himself from laughing out loud. At this moment, a person walked over slowly. Before the person arrived, the voice came first. Dean Flanders, Vice President Zhao Wuji. How are you? Disciple Qin Ming greets you. It was Qin Ming, the instructor of the Huangdu team, who came. He quickly stepped forward and knelt down on one knee in front of Flender and Zhao Wukai. At this time, he had completely lost the calmness he had when he was holding the battle for the royal fighting team, and his eyes were full of excitement. Flender supported the crystal glasses on the bridge of his nose with his hands. I thought you brat had forgotten about us long ago. Zhao Wuji helped Qin Ming up from the ground, looked Qin Ming up and down, and laughed. Good boy, you are getting better and better. It seems that it won't be long before you will catch up with us old guys. Qin Ming stood with his hands down respectfully. No matter when, the two principals are always Qin Ming's teachers, and Qin Ming will always be a Shrek Academy's disciple. Flanders raised his hand and patted Qin Ming's shoulder hard. It has been so many years since I left the academy, and you are still as restrained as before. Come on, let me introduce you. This is the master. You also saw these 7 little monsters on the soul fighting stage just now. Qin Ming first saluted Yu Xiaorogang respectfully, and what he did was a disciple salute. Hello, master. Yu Xiaorogang, who was on the side of his body, did not accept his gift and said calmly, You are welcome. Qin Ming couldn't help but be stunned for a moment when he saw that Yu Xiaorogang did not accept his courtesy, but Flanders on the side smiled. You are his nephew's teacher. In terms of seniority, he will certainly not accept your courtesy. Qin Ming looked at Flender puzzled, and Yu Xiaorogang's eyes showed a gleam of dissatisfaction, as if he was blaming Flender for revealing himself. Flanders smiled and said, We are all our own, so you don't have to hide it. Do I have to tell everyone that Yu Tianheng is your nephew? Hearing this, Yu Xiaorogang's face suddenly darkened. You have already told them. Flanders, I have said many times that I have no relationship with the blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex family for a long time. After leaving these words, Yu Xiaorogang turned around and walked outside. Chapter 103, Dinner with the Emperor Du. Yu Xiaorogang's departure did not have any impact on this teacher-student meeting. Flanders, Zhao Wuji and Qin Ming were still chatting happily. Then Flanders gritted his teeth and stamped his feet and expressed that he wanted to invite Qin Ming to dinner, but Qin Ming refused. According to Qin Ming's idea, as a student, he should invite him. Flanders was eager for this, and after a little push-off, he agreed with a smile. 3 teachers, Flanders, Zhao Wuji and Qin Ming, as well as 7 students including Yin Hao, went to the hotel together. Qin Ming also said that he would call his students over to get to know everyone. After finding a messenger, he followed everyone in Flanders to the hotel. After arriving at the hotel in Soto City, Yin Hao and others took off their masks directly. Qin Ming looked at the slightly young faces and was a little dazed for a moment. He looked at Flanders and Zhao Wuji sitting beside him and said with some uncertainty, "These people are the juniors who were on stage just now." Flanders seemed to enjoy the shocked look Qin Ming cast, and they nodded. "Yeah, not like it." Qin Ming shook his head, looked at Yin Hao and others carefully, and spoke again. "But they look a bit too young." "That's harder." Flanders smiled, then waved to Yin Hao and the others. "Come on, children, let me introduce my age and soul power level to you, Senior Qin. Xiao Hao, you first." Yin Hao nodded and said to Qin Ming, "Hello, Senior Qin, my name is Yin Hao. My martial spirit is mutated blue-silver grass. I am a level 54 fighting spirit king, and I am just 13 this year." Qin Ming opened his mouth slightly and took a closer look at the handsome blue-haired young man in front of him, the 13-year-old Soul King, not to mention meeting him. He has never heard of it. This. Qin Ming pointed at Yin Hao and looked at Flanders, not knowing what to say for a moment. Flanders looked at Qin Ming calmly, as if to say, "As for that, I'm used to it." However, the slightly raised corners of his mouth still showed the pride he felt inside. Zhao Wuji on the other side didn't have so many bells and whistles. After seeing the shock on Qin Ming's face, he couldn't hide the smile on his face, as if Yin Hao's soul power level was all due to them. After Yin Hao's introduction, Zhu Zhuqing made the second introduction. Zhu Zhuqing, martial spirit ghost cat, level 39 fighting spirit master, 12. Another 12-year-old top soul master, Qin Ming was once again stunned, but with Yin Hao Zhuyu in front, it was not unacceptable. Then Enning Rongrong, Zyro Wu, Tang San, Oscar, Ma Hongjun and others also introduced themselves. "Well, Ma Hongjun, the little fat guy, can pass by. This guy who was knocked away by Yu Feng with one move is not worthy of Qin Ming's attention." A squeak. The door was opened, and standing outside the door was Du Guyan and others who were already very numb. There was no doubt that they heard clearly what Yin Hao and others just said. Everyone stood there blankly, not saying anything about coming in or leaving. When Qin Ming saw Du Guyan and the others coming, he put away the shocked look on his face, straightened his face, and then greeted Du Guyan and the others with a smile. "Are you here? Come in quickly and introduce some friends to you." Du Guyan and the others nodded blankly and slowly walked into the room. When the door closed again, Qin Ming realized that one person was missing, and then he frowned and said, "Where's Oslo? Why didn't he come?" Speaking of Oslo, Du Guyan and the others finally came back to their senses. As the captain, Yu Tianheng, explained, "Teacher, Oslo said he was not feeling well and went to play in the city." Hearing this, Qin Ming frowned and continued to ask, "Are you feeling uncomfortable? Why don't you stay in the hotel when you feel uncomfortable?" Seeing that Qin Ming was still asking, Yu Tianheng was a little embarrassed, so he hesitated before speaking. "That, Teacher Qin, Osluo, he has a special kind of discomfort." Qin Ming wasn't stupid either. Seeing Yu Tianheng's appearance, he completely understood. He immediately coughed twice in embarrassment, and then waved his hand to tell Yu Tianheng to stop talking. "Bar men are so dirty." Enning Rongrong, who was sitting not far away, spat lightly and said. Hearing this, Zyro Wu, who was sitting next to Yin Hao, stopped working. "Rongrong, don't scold everyone with just a few words. My brother Hao is so clean." Enning Rongrong sneered, glanced at Zhu Zhuqing next to him with his peripheral vision, and then spoke. "Yes, he's clean, but maybe someone won't make him clean." Zhu Zhuqing's face turned even colder when she heard this, but fortunately, she usually had a cold face and no one could tell. However, Zyro Wu was stunned for a moment when she heard this, and said with some confusion, "What do you mean, Rongrong? Who do you think won't let Brother Hao get clean?" Upon hearing Zyro Wu's questioning, Enning Rongrong remained silent, and Zyro Wu stamped her feet anxiously. Yin Hao pulled her back, touched her little head, and said, "Okay, stop making trouble, there are still guests here." "Oh." Feeling Yin Hao's hand on her head, Zyro Wu narrowed her eyes in enjoyment and stopped asking Enning Rongrong. On the other hand, Du Guyang kept staring at Yin Hao and never looked away. Yin Hao looked at her, and after looking at her for 2 seconds, he asked, "What's wrong, Miss Du Guyan? Why are you looking at me like this?" After hearing Yin Hao's words, before Du Guyang could react, Zyro Wu opened her eyes first and looked at Du Guyang cautiously. Du Guyan ignored Zyro Wu, but looked at Yin Hao and said slightly suspiciously, "Are you really only 13 years old?" Yin Hao smiled. "Is it still a holiday? I just celebrated my 13th birthday a month ago. If you don't believe it, you can feel the bones." With that said, Yin Hao stretched out his arm. Du Guyan waved his hand to express rejection, and then said with a self-deprecating smile, "I didn't expect that I would lose to someone so much younger than me. It's really—" Yu Tianheng was quite generous and interrupted the conversation between the two of them. "Okay, Yanzi, don't say these unhappy words. Come to Yin Hao, let's have a drink together. It's like we don't know each other until we fight." Yin Hao also raised his glass and said with a smile, "Okay, we don't know each other without fighting. Let's have a drink." Du Guyan was not angry after being interrupted. Instead, he smiled and raised his glass. "You don't know each other anymore, aren't we the same? Come and have a drink together." Everyone was eating and chatting casually. Qin Ming looked at Yin Hao and the others who were chatting and said with a little regret, "What a pity. If juniors and juniors are not from Shrek, I will try my best to get you to the Royal Academy. If you join us, maybe." Chapter 104, Tang San's Side Effects. As soon as Qin Ming finished speaking, he heard a voice coming from the door. "Even if they are from Shrek Academy, you can also bring them back to the Royal Academy." Everyone followed the sound and saw Yu Xiaogang walking in from outside. He was not polite and directly squeezed a seat next to Flanders and sat down. Qin Ming asked tentatively, "Master, what did you just say?" Before Yu Xiaogang could reply, Flender quit. "Master, are you here to undermine me? These children belong to Shrek, now and in the future. Can't we give them a good education in Shrek?" Yu Xiaogang didn't change because of Flender's anxiety, and said calmly with his face still stiff, "I didn't say to let them join Tiandu Imperial Academy. What I mean is, I hope the two academies can communicate with each other. Teacher Qin, I think this should not be a big problem. If you can't make the decision, I can find Wu Hundian." He is looking for Wu Hundian. Yin Hao sneered in his heart but didn't speak. Qin Ming thought for a while, then spoke. "Tiandu College is lucky to be able to communicate with juniors and juniors. It's just that I'm afraid." Yu Xiaogang took the conversation and said, "You are afraid that these children are too good to come back to your Heaven-Du Royal Academy, isn't it?" While talking, Yu Xiaogang looked at Yin Hao and the others, as if their achievements had a lot to do with him. Qin Ming also nodded and said, "Yes, although the Heaven-Du Imperial Academy has the title of the first academy in the Heaven-Du Empire, it has rarely produced powerful soul masters these years. The status went from bad to worse. The leaders of the college are eager for talented students. If the juniors and juniors go, there is no guarantee that they will not have any ideas. I'm afraid that they will use all kinds of connections to invite the juniors and girls to stay as much as possible. Wouldn't that poach the corner of our Shrek Academy?" After hearing Qin Ming's words, Flender also smiled and then said, "Zyro Ming, you're not bad. As expected of you, you came out of Shrek Academy. You know how to think about the academy. Master, Zyro Ming is not an outsider. If you have anything to say, just say it." Afterwards, Yu Xiaogang told everyone about his idea of borrowing chickens to lay eggs, and Flender frowned. But just as he was about to refute a few sentences, Yu Xiaogang was speechless with a series of words such as "no virtual training room," "not qualified to participate in the Continental Advanced Soul Master competition," "teaching conditions are not good," and finally I can only sit there alone and drink wine. Seeing Flanders stop talking, Yu Xiaogang nodded with satisfaction. He naturally knew the hardships Flanders went through in establishing Shrek Academy and the relationship he had worked hard on for 20 years. But in his eyes, how can these bullshit things compare to rectifying his name with the help of the Soul Master competition? As for whether Flanders will feel uncomfortable, he is Flanders' brother. If Flanders is not even willing to sacrifice such a thing for himself, then how can he be qualified to be his brother? Qin Ming naturally would not object, and nodded in agreement. In this way, the meal ended in a seemingly harmonious, but not quite harmonious atmosphere. Qin Ming and the others did not stop after eating, and separated from the Shrek and others with Huangdu and the others. Yin Hao and the others returned to Shrek Academy, following the sullen Flender. Maybe it was because of the effect of what he said this morning, or it could be because of Enning Rongrong anyway. Zhu Zhuqing didn't come again, and Yin Hao had a rare good night's sleep. The next morning, everyone who didn't need to gather got up early. Even Tang San, the guy who climbed the roof every morning, got up very late. Yin Hao walked out of the room, just in time to bump into Tang San, who was rubbing his eyes. "Little San, good morning." Tang San put down his hands in front of him, stared at Yin Hao for 2 minutes, then he smiled and greeted Yin Hao as if he just recognized him. "Brother Hao, good morning." Yin Hao glanced at Tang San curiously, then asked, "What's wrong with you, San? Are your eyes uncomfortable?" Tang San was taken aback for a moment, then a smile emerged from the corner of his mouth. "Is it so obvious? I don't know what's going on. The vision of the eyes seems to be getting worse and worse, especially in the morning, it's almost blurry." Hearing this, Yin Hao was also taken aback. This guy, doesn't he even have the purple demon eye? Can I still be nearsighted? Hey no, this kid really didn't see any side effects after taking that fake and shoddy product before. It can't be this. Then Yin Hao asked again, "Little San, how long have you been in this situation?" Tang San thought for a moment, when it seemed to have been a few months, but it was nothing serious at first, so he didn't care. It's not like he didn't suspect that there was something wrong with the fairy grass that Yin Hao brought back, but the fairy grass was chosen by himself. And it was recorded in the Xuanshan treasure record. How could the Xuanshan treasure record be wrong? So Tang San didn't think too much about it. Then Tang San spoke. "It's been a while, but it didn't matter much in the beginning, and I didn't care about it." Yin Hao nodded. Tang San didn't show any side effects after eating the fairy grass. Yin Hao was still wondering, so it was like this. Then he took out a bottle of blue liquid from his arms, and said with a concerned face, "Zyro-san, I've seen this situation before. It's probably caused by overuse of the eyes. This is the eye drop I prepared myself. You should use it. It should be useful." Overuse your eyes. This word reminded Tang San. Could it be that there is something wrong with Siji Demon Eye? Thinking of this, Tang San took the eye drops indiscriminately, said "Thank you, Brother Hao," and quickly ran towards his room. At the same time, the system prompt sounded again in Yin Hao's mind. "Congratulations to the host for trading a bottle of eye drops to obtain the blueprint of Tang San's huge godly crossbow. Do you want to receive it?" Godly huge crossbow. Yin Hao was stunned for a moment, then the corner of his mouth lifted and he gave a chuckle. This was one of the few good things about Tang San, not to mention how much Yin Hao admired the huge divine crossbow, or how much he liked it. But although this thing is not very powerful, it can be sold for money. If this is sold to Enning Fengjai, then. Thinking of this, Yin Hao smiled, and then said silently in his heart, "Receive." Then a light flashed in Yin Hao's hand, and a dark yellow blueprint appeared in his hand. The above pictures and words are all available, and the assembly, disassembly, and use methods of each small part are also written in every detail. Yin Hao took a look at the drawing in his hand, then nodded with satisfaction. At the same time, Tang San in the room was in a trance, as if he had forgotten something important, but he didn't expect to forget anything after thinking for a long time. Immediately, he no longer cared about this, and continued to study the purple demon eye. Chapter 105, Dai Mu by Walking with a Limp. After Yin Hao got the blueprint, he didn't rush to find Enning Rongrong that seemed too purposeful. So Yin Hao wanted to find a blacksmith shop first, and let him build the parts for him. After he finished building it, Yin Hao would put it together according to the drawings. Anyway, Tang San had already forgotten what the godly huge crossbow looked like. Even if it was finished, he wouldn't be able to recognize it when it was held in front of him. Just do it. Yin Hao took back the drawing and prepared to walk out. Before he took a few steps, he bumped into Dai Mubai, who hadn't returned all night. At this time, Dai Mubai didn't seem to be in particularly good condition. His spirits were listless, his 2 dark circles were very obvious, as if he hadn't slept well, and he kept yawning as he walked. Mubai, Yin Hao called out tentatively. Dai Mubai was slowly walking towards the dormitory with half-closed eyes, but his legs were spread out as he walked, and he was limping very strangely. Hearing someone calling him, Dai Mubai was startled, and swallowed the yawn that hadn't fully yawned. His whole body trembled. It's Hao, what's wrong? Are you going to have breakfast? Dai Mubai forced a smile and responded to Yin Hao, but the forced smile could not cover up the tired look on his face. Yin Hao glanced at him suspiciously. Where did you just come back from? After Dai Mubai heard Yin Hao's question, he seemed slightly flustered. His eyes unconsciously glanced to the side, but he recovered immediately and spoke. I walked around Soto City and saw that it was a little too late, so I didn't come back. I stayed in the city for one night and just came back from the city. Yin Hao nodded and said nothing more. He chatted with him for a few more words and left. It wasn't until Yin Hao walked away that Dai Mubai breathed a sigh of relief and continued limping towards the dormitory. Yin Hao was not in a hurry to go to the blacksmith shop, but wanted to go to the canteen to have some food first. Although Yu Xiaogang is not a very good person, his work on the surface is still good. At least Shrek's food has become better since he came. It's all Flanders money. Although it is not better than the big hotels in the city, but with Xiao Xin, the sole master of food, the taste is very good. In the cafeteria, Zyro Wu, Enning Rongrong and Oscar were eating inside. Zyro Wu and Enning Rongrong were next to each other. Oscar was sitting opposite to Enning Rongrong, and from time to time he raised his head to chat with Enning Rongrong, although Enning Rongrong basically didn't reply to him. Seeing Yin Hao walk in, Zyro Wu stood up immediately, ignored her food, and ran to Yin Hao's side. Brother Hao. Yin Hao glanced at her helplessly, then took out a piece of paper from the ring and wiped her mouth. Okay, there are others here. Zyro Wu didn't care at all about the other people in Yin Hao's mouth and continued to walk to Yin Hao and hugged his arm. It's here, it's nothing. Enning Rongrong looked up at Yin Hao and greeted with a smile. Yin Hao also responded. Seeing the two of them like this, Oscar glanced enviously, then turned his head to look at Enning Rongrong and couldn't help sighing secretly. Really, I have been stalking him for half a year, and Rongrong has not expressed anything, so should I? Step up and be nice to her. Right, only in this way can Rongrong see my sincerity, and one day I will become the kind of little bird that Zyro Wu treats Hao Ji. Thinking of this, Oscar unconsciously laughed. Yin Hao took Zyro Wu to the cafeteria, asked Xiao Xin for a meal, and then returned to the place where Enning Rongrong and the two were. Zyro Wu was still sitting in her original position, while Yin Hao was sitting opposite her, next to Oscar. The meal was peaceful. Yin Hao was fed by Zyro Wu and chatted casually with a few people, but nothing happened. After a meal, Yin Hao got up and prepared to go to Suoto City. Zyro Wu naturally held Yin Hao's arm and did not let go and wanted to go with him. But Yin Hao thought about it for a while, felt nothing and agreed. Just when the two were about to leave, Enning Rongrong also stood up, looked at Yin Hao and the two, and said with a smile, I'll go with you too, don't you mind? Zyro Wu frowned slightly upon hearing this, but said nothing. Yin Hao shook his head and said with a smile, Of course I don't mind. It's Rongrong. Oscar stood up and wanted to say something, but Enning Rongrong stopped him before he could speak. Oscar, you don't want to follow me, go busy with your own business. After finishing speaking, he didn't wait for Oscar to reply and walked forward directly. Hey, forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to Infinite Novel Audio. Oscar looked at Enning Rongrong's back, opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but finally nodded and swallowed the words that came to his mouth. After leaving Shrek, Yin Hao found a blacksmith in the city, and then divided the blueprint into two, kept the assembled half in his own hands, and handed over the parts to the blacksmith. After paying the deposit, several people left. After leaving the blacksmith shop, Enning Rongrong looked at Yin Hao with a puzzled expression and said, Yin Hao, when did you become interested in these iron objects? I thought only Tang San would be interested in these things. Zyro Wu also cast a curious look, as if she also wanted to know the answer to this question. But Yin Hao just smiled and said, This is a gift for you. Gift? Enning Rongrong was stunned for a moment. Did she bring a gift to the blacksmith shop? It can't be some mechanism weapon, right? But Zyro Wu didn't have so many doubts. When she heard that Yin Hao was going to give her a gift, no matter what he gave, the smile on her face couldn't be hidden anyway. After leaving the blacksmith shop, Yin Hao and his party wandered around Suoto City again, buying some delicious food when they saw it, and finding a place to sit when they were tired, and continued shopping after resting. Brother Hao, take a look at this thing, does it look good? Zyro Wu walked to a stall, picked up something similar to a hairpin, and asked with a smile. While talking, he placed it in front of his head and fiddled with it, looking at Yin Hao with both eyes motionless, as if he wanted to get his evaluation. It looks good, our little dancer is already good-looking, she looks good in anything she wears. Wei! Hearing Yin Hao's words, the smile on Zyro Wu's face became brighter. And the stall owner saw that the business was done, and began to sell it hard. Girl, you and your lover are really discerning. Don't look at my small stall, but the things are notoriously exquisite. Let's just say that the one you are holding is one of the best in my place. Good stuff. Yin Hao didn't answer the stall owner's words. 10 or 8 sentences in these small vendors' mouths were false, and there were 2 half-truths and half-false sentences. Why don't you see for yourself? Chapter 106. Returning to the Rose Hotel, Yin Hao stood in front of the stall, and Enning Rongrong also walked over. Yin Hao stretched out his hand in front of Zyro Wu, grabbed her hand holding the hairpin, and took the hairpin over. Then one hand gently supported Zyro Wu's head, and the other hand slowly put the hairpin on her head. Then he let her go and chuckled. So lovely. Zyro Wu was not shy. She touched the hairpin on her head, put her hands around Yin Hao's neck, and kissed Yin Hao on the lips. Thank you, brother Hao. After kissing Yin Hao, Zyro Wu did not let go of Yin Hao, but continued to hold his neck and hang on Yin Hao with a smile on her face. Hey, there are still people here. Enning Rongrong at the side couldn't stand it anymore and reminded him, but there was a sour breath in his tone. Hearing Enning Rongrong's words, Zyro Wu really didn't feel any shyness. After all, she has lived like this for so many years, so is she still afraid of others talking about it? Then he looked at Enning Rongrong with a playful expression. What's wrong, Rongrong? Are you envious? If you're envious, why don't you quickly find someone? By the way, isn't Oscar always chasing you? Why don't you think about it? Enning Rongrong was slightly startled when he heard this, then frowned and spoke. Don't mention Oscar, I have no feelings for him. Zyro Wu had naturally noticed this after such a long time. Seeing Enning Rongrong's displeasure, she said nothing more and just continued to hold Yin Hao's arm. Yin Hao glanced back and forth twice at the stall owner's stall, then picked up a light blue hairpin and looked at Enning Rongrong. Rongrong, do you mind if I give you a gift? Hearing Yin Hao's voice, Zyro Wu and Enning Rongrong were taken aback at the same time. Enning Rongrong looked at the hairpin in Yin Hao's hand and nodded with a smile. You have picked them up, will it be too ugly if I refuse? After saying that, she moved half a step towards Yin Hao, and then lowered her head slightly, as if she wanted Yin Hao to put it on for her. Zyro Wu frowned when she saw this scene, but she didn't say anything. Yin Hao raised the hairpin in his hand, and gently put it on for Enning Rongrong. How is it? Does it look good? Enning Rongrong raised her head with a smile, and looked at Yin Hao hopefully. Naturally, Yin Hao would not be stingy with compliments, and nodded directly. Of course, it's not that the hairpin makes you look better, but wearing it on someone as beautiful as you makes the hairpin even more beautiful. You're pretty good at talking. Enning Rongrong joked with a smile, but the curved corner of her mouth still showed that she was in a good mood. Yin Hao turned his attention to the stall owner again, and said, Boss, how much are these 2 things in total? The stall owner didn't seem to have recovered from the relationship between the 2 girls and Yin Hao. He was obviously stunned after hearing Yin Hao's question, but he came back to his senses immediately. Oh, thanks for your kindness. I have 3 Gintama coins in total. 3 silver soul coins are not cheap, but Yin Hao didn't intend to bargain with him, so he paid him directly and left with the 2 girls. The stall owner looked at the back of Yin Hao and the 3 of them leaving and muttered to himself. It's nice of 2 such beautiful little girls to be with a man. Booms, boom. Just when the 3 of them were about to continue strolling around Soto City, God was not in favor. After several thunderclaps, the original light blue sky quickly turned grey, dense dark clouds covered the sun, and the gloomy sky seemed to be accompanied by a slightly damp atmosphere. It is going to rain. Everyone can see this. Seeing this, many small vendors on the road start to clean up their stalls in a hurry. Those who can bag the bags should do so, while those who cannot and are afraid of the rain should quickly find a tarpaulin to cover them. The 3 of Yin Hao looked at each other, and then Yin Hao spoke first. It's going to rain, let's go back to the academy. As soon as the words were spoken, Du Zirao, who was holding Yin Hao's arm, spoke. Do not. One sentence attracted the attention of Enning Rongrong and Yin Hao. Ziro Wu felt a little embarrassed when she saw the looks from the 2 of them, but she continued to speak. The sky is cloudy so fast, I'm afraid it's going to rain soon. Why don't we find a hotel to shelter from the rain, and it won't be too late to go back to the academy when the weather clears up tomorrow. Hearing Ziro Wu's words, Yin Hao didn't rush to answer, but looked back at Enning Rongrong behind him, wanting to hear her opinion. Enning Rongrong seemed to think it made sense, and nodded directly. I think what Ziro Wu said is right. Don't wait until we haven't found the carriage. The rain will come down first, then it will be bad. Hearing that the 2 reached an agreement, Yin Hao naturally would not raise any objections, and nodded his head in agreement. Seeing Yin Hao's agreement, Ziro Wu seemed to have achieved a certain purpose, and a smile appeared on her face instantly. Then he took Yin Hao's arm and walked along the road ahead. I know a hotel is very good, let's go there. Yin Hao glanced at Ziro Wu curiously. What good hotel does this little rabbit know? Really, although he was suspicious, Yin Hao still had no intention of stopping him, so he was pulled forward by Ziro Wu, and Enning Rongrong followed closely behind. However, less than 10 minutes away, the group of 3 arrived at what Ziro Wu called a good hotel. Yin Hao looked up and there were 4 big characters, Rose Hotel, written on the huge sign between them. Isn't this the Love Hotel where they stayed when they first came to Soto City? Yin Hao gave Ziro Wu a funny look, and even Enning Rongrong looked at her with a half-smile. Feeling the gazes of the 2 at the same time, even Ziro Wu couldn't bear it anymore, so she could only lower her head and say, I don't think it's going to rain. This hotel is close and the decoration is better, so. Yin Hao smiled and touched Ziro Wu's ear, then spoke. Okay, it doesn't matter. Let's stay in this house, Rongrong, is that okay? While speaking, Yin Hao turned back to look at Enning Rongrong behind him. Enning Rongrong didn't hesitate at all, just nodded and said. It's okay, Ziro Wu also said. It's going to rain. This is the only hotel. There is no need to find another hotel. After speaking, he took the lead in walking inside. Yin Hao and Ziro Wu followed closely behind. When we got inside, the front desk of the Rose Hotel no longer recognized Yin Hao and the 2 of them. Also, they had only been here once half a year ago. If they could still remember it, they would be a ghost. Open 3 rooms. Yin Hao handed the gold card out and said. Maybe it's because of the off-season, but the 3 of them didn't encounter the bloody plot of only 1 room. After a short operation at the front desk, the 3 rooms were quickly opened. Chapter 107 Knock. In the middle of the night, the 3 of them took their room cards and went to the 2nd floor. After chatting for a while, they went back to their rooms. Back in his room, Yin Hao took a shower first, then wrapped himself in a towel and walked out of the bathroom. Not sleeping either, just sitting in front of the bed, waiting for something. As time passed slowly, it rained heavily outside the window without exception, and the sound of splashing water came from outside, which was not pleasant but not annoying. Boom, 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 there was a knock on the door. Yin Hao was not surprised at all, stood up and walked towards the door. When he opened the door before he could speak, a pink figure jumped into his arms in an instant, and Yin Hao's chin was moving with 2 little fluffy pink ears. What? Can't wait, bunny. Yin Hao looked at Kaining in his arms and joked. Zyro Wu didn't reply, but kept burying her face in Yin Hao's arms, seeming a little shy. Yin Hao didn't care. He carried her into the house again and closed the door casually. Boom! The door was closed again. Only Yin Hao and Zyro Wu were left in the huge room. Seeing that Yin Hao had been silent after closing the door, Zyro Wu raised her head and looked up out of curiosity. As a result, he met Yin Hao's eyes with a face full of ridicule. His face turned red with embarrassment, and he lowered his face again. But Yin Hao would not let her lower her head again. He stretched out his right hand to gently pick her chin, and slowly raised her face. Then he spoke softly. Now you know how shy you are. Zyro Wu blushed slightly, her eyes kept avoiding, not daring to look at Yin Hao. Yin Hao didn't care. He bent down slightly, stretched out his arms to wrap around Zyro Wu's waist and legs, and hugged her up. What? Zyro Wu didn't react at first and let out an exclamation, but after she did, she quickly put her hands around Yin Hao's neck to stabilize her figure. Yin Hao walked slowly towards the bed with Zyro Wu in his arms and gently put her on the bed. Then slowly lowered his head and printed it on her ruddy lips. Seeing Yin Hao's movements, Zyro Wu seemed to be even more shy. She closed her eyes tightly, waiting for the mouth that was about to land on her lips. But after waiting for a long time, he didn't feel Yin Hao's mouth, so he opened his eyes curiously again. But she found that Yin Hao was only a foot away from her at this time, looking at her with a smile. Zyro Wu, who was tricked again, was a little unhappy, raised her white hand and hit Yin Hao's chest. Brother Hao's you are too, Wu. Before he finished speaking, Yin Hao gagged his mouth and could only make a whining sound. Zyro Wu wanted to struggle at first, but after struggling for a second, she decisively gave up. She wrapped her hands around Yin Hao's neck and began to respond crudely. 3 minutes later, Yin Hao finally let go of Zyro Wu, who was already blushing. Zyro Wu looked at Yin Hao in front of her, breathing heavily but didn't say anything. Boom, boom, boom. Just when the two were about to take the next step, there was another knock on the door. Zyro Wu and Yin Hao looked towards the door almost at the same time. Yin Hao, are you there? I have something to tell you. Hearing Enning Rongrong's voice, Zyro Wu frowned unhappily. Really, she didn't come sooner or later, but she came at this time, this Rongrong. Yin Hao also noticed Zyro Wu's unhappiness, raised his arm and gently touched her little head, comforting her a little. I'll be right back. Zyro Wu nodded. Yin Hao stood up, picked up the coat on the side and put it on, then walked towards the door. Opening the door, it turned out to be Enning Rongrong standing at the door. What's wrong, Rongrong? What's the matter? Yin Hao asked with a smile. Enning Rongrong read the hem of his clothes with both hands, lowered his head slightly, seemed a little embarrassed. May. She didn't know what was going on. She had obviously organized her language before, but when she saw Yin Hao, she forgot all about it and could only keep talking, I me. Yin Hao also saw her strangeness and comforted her softly. Don't worry, we are friends, what can't we say slowly? Hearing Yin Hao's words, Enning Rongrong seemed to have made up his mind, and after taking 2 deep breaths, he raised his head. Well, Yin Hao, there is something I wanted to tell you before. What is it? Enning Rongrong raised her head and looked into Yin Hao's eyes, and said seriously. I like you. Upon hearing this, Yin Hao was stunned for a moment, and subconsciously looked back at the room. Although the room is not small, the sound from the door can still be heard clearly. Fortunately, Zyro Wu didn't seem to rush out because of this voice, otherwise Yin Hao didn't know how to end it. Yin Hao smiled and said, Rongrong, is this why you came here today to talk to me? Enning Rongrong took half a step forward, her body almost touching Yin Hao's body. She stretched out her hand and gently put it on Yin Hao's shoulder, lowered her head slightly and said, I know you already have Zyro Wu, and I told myself not to be so mean, but I really couldn't hold back. While speaking, he pressed his face to Yin Hao's chest. To be honest, if it was normal, Yin Hao would have agreed. He is not a good person, so he can sit still. What are you kidding? But it's not suitable now. There's another one inside. Kaka. Before Yin Hao could respond, some voices came from the room. Enning Rongrong, who was burying her face in front of Yin Hao, was slightly taken aback, then raised her face and looked into the room strangely. What sound? Nothing. Yin Hao did not say that Zyro Wu was inside, otherwise Enning Rongrong would have to bury herself in embarrassment. That Rongrong I. Just as Yin Hao opened his mouth, before he could say anything, Enning Rongrong blocked his mouth with his fingers. Don't rush to answer me. This confused Yin Hao. You came to express your feelings to me, but you didn't let me answer after you finished speaking. What do you mean unexpectedly? Enning Rongrong had no idea of explaining, and gently removed the finger that was placed in front of Yin Hao's lips, then stood up on tiptoes and kissed him. Okay. Yin Hao was stunned for a moment, then looked at Enning Rongrong in front of him. He obviously didn't expect her to come so suddenly, but he didn't hide and let her kiss him. 2 seconds later, Enning Rongrong blushed slightly and separated from Yin Hao. I know you like Zyro Wu, but I don't want your answer or promise. Then Enning Rongrong smiled self-deprecatingly, lowering her head slightly. Actually, I'm also a bitch. I still like you even though I know you have a girlfriend. Maybe you don't know, I wanted to confess my love to you in the middle of the night, but because of Shu. The new chapter is under review and may be blocked. Chapter 108, Zyro Wu wants to eat meat. Speaking of this, Enning Rongrong seemed to think of something. The words stopped abruptly, did not continue, but looked at Yin Hao again. I don't care what you think, even if you ignore me in the future, I will admit it, so that's it, I'll go first. After saying that, he turned around and prepared to leave without hesitation. Hey, Rongrong. Yin Hao looked at Enning Rongrong's back and shouted. After hearing the voice, Enning Rongrong turned around, looked at Yin Hao, smiled and said, You don't have to answer me in such a hurry, think about it before you say it, goodbye. After finishing speaking, without the slightest intention of staying, he turned and left directly. Yin Hao watched her figure disappear in the corridor, then turned around and returned to the house. Inside the room, Zyro Wu had already sat up on the bed, looking towards the door with a slightly indifferent expression. Anyone could tell that she must be in a bad mood right now. Yin Hao walked slowly to Zyro Wu's side, put his arms around her shoulders, and let her lean on him. Zyro Wu didn't resist, and just leaned into Yin Hao's arms. Zyro Wu wrong, she. Brother Hao, you don't need to explain. Just as Yin Hao was about to say something, he was interrupted by Zyro Wu. But Zyro Wu, who interrupted Yin Hao's words, did not speak for a while, and the whole room fell into an inexplicable silence for a while. After a long time, Zyro Wu, who was leaning against Yin Hao's arms, spoke again. Actually, I've already seen it. Okay. Yin Hao lowered his head and took a look at Zyro Wu, but saw that she also had a calm face, and there was nothing strange about it, but instead she looked a little intelligent that she didn't usually have. You have helped her so many times before, whether it was saving her under Teacher Zhao when she first entered school or taking her to participate in a two-person soul fight. It is hard not to feel good about her, let alone you gave her a what about the fairy grass that made her martial soul evolve. Since Oscar has been rejected by her all this time, I can see that something is wrong, but I just didn't say it, who knows that she really. Having said this, Zyro Wu did not continue talking, but raised the corners of her mouth, revealing a slightly sarcastic smile. Okay, don't be angry. Being angry will make a girl grow older. Yin Hao patted Zyro Wu's back and comforted her with the tone of a child. He has been doing this for the past few years, but this time it seems to be invalid. Seeing Zyro Wu's body twisting a little, the whole person broke free from Yin Hao's arms, then looked at Yin Hao and said, Brother Hao, you like Rongrong too, don't you? Okay. Yin Hao was stunned by these words. Although this was true, he probably didn't show it at ordinary times. Seeing Yin Hao's reaction, Zyro Wu seemed to be more sure of her previous guess, and continued to speak with a serious face. Don't pretend to be Brother Hao. With your intelligence, how can you fail to see that Rongrong likes you? But it's been so long, and you haven't explicitly rejected her. How dare you say you don't like her? Yin Hao glanced at Zyro Wu in amazement, wondering why this usually clumsy little rabbit suddenly became smart. Zyro Wu, Yin Hao wanted to say something more, but he was interrupted again by Zyro Wu just after he said a few words. I agreed. Ha, you agree. Yin Hao was stunned for a moment, then stared blankly at Zyro Wu. I saw Zyro Wu smiled, threw herself into Yin Hao's arms again, put her face on Yin Hao's chest, and said softly, "I don't want to embarrass you." The words, "I don't want to embarrass you," made Yin Hao stunned again. He looked down at Zyro Wu unexpectedly, but saw that she still had a smile on her face. Then Zyro Wu opened her arms, hugged Yin Hao with her backhand, and spoke, "Since Rongrong likes you and you don't want to refuse, then why should I stop you anymore? And let me tell you a secret." "What secret?" Zyro Wu moved up, and with a mysterious look on her face, she leaned into Yin Hao's ear and spoke. "I feel that the way Zhu Qing looks at you is not right, but she may not be as bold as Rongrong and doesn't dare to tell you." After finishing speaking, Zyro Wu nodded earnestly at Yin Hao, expressing that she was very sure. Yin Hao suddenly felt a little funny. Isn't Zhu Qing bold? How bold can she be? If it weren't for my strength being stronger than her, I don't know which ravine I was kidnapped by her now. But Yin Hao didn't say this, but nodded cooperatively. Zyro Wu hugged Yin Hao and continued. "Brother Hao, I agree with you and Rongrong, but I also have a condition." Yin Hao glanced at Zyro Wu strangely, then spoke. "What conditions?" Unexpectedly, Zyro Wu did not answer in a hurry, but stood up, looked at Yin Hao condescendingly, then showed a ferocious look and spoke. "Tonight I won't let you go again, Brother Hao." After finishing speaking, without waiting for Yin Hao to reply, he rushed forward directly. The next morning, as a ray of sunlight shone in, the room gradually became brighter. Yin Hao woke up first. Just when he wanted to lift his arm, he felt that his arm seemed to be pressed by something. Looking down, Zyro Wu was lying on her arms with her eyes closed, soundly asleep. Yin Hao didn't mean to disturb her, so he lay back down again. About an hour later, Zyro Wu woke up leisurely. Opening his eyes, he glanced at Yin Hao next to him, only to see that he was also looking at him with a half-smile. Zyro Wu was not shy at all. She turned over and put her long legs on Yin Hao, raised her head and looked at Yin Hao with a smile. "Brother Hao." Yin Hao raised his unpressed hand and touched Zyro Wu's two rabbit ears. After verification, "This thing really adds GS." Feeling the hand on her head, Zyro Wu didn't intend to resist. Instead, she half-closed her eyes and seemed to enjoy it. Boom, boom, boom. There was a knock on the door, followed by a clear female voice. "Yin Hao, are you still there? Have you seen Zyro Wu? I just went to her room and couldn't find her." "It's Enning Rongrong." Zyro Wu's half-closed eyes instantly opened. No matter how generous she said last night, it was impossible for her not to mind at all. Boom, boom, boom. Maybe because there was no movement inside, Enning Rongrong knocked on the door again. "Yin Hao, are you there?" Yin Hao, who heard the voice again, was about to respond when Zyro Wu directly stopped him. Afterwards, Zyro Wu opened her mouth and mouthed, "I go." Yin Hao was stunned for a moment, but seeing that Zyro Wu was very determined, he didn't object and nodded in agreement. Zyro Wu got up from Yin Hao's arms, and she frowned slightly due to some strange feeling. But this is nothing to her who has a strong body of a soul master. Zyro Wu adjusted herself in just a moment. Chapter 109, Strict Than Myself. Boom, boom, boom. Yin Hao, are you? While Enning Rongrong was still knocking on the door. With a click, the door opened. Enning Rongrong also put down her hand that was about to knock on the door and turned to look inside the house. "Yin Hao, is you?" As the door was opened, Zyro Wu's figure also appeared in Enning Rongrong's field of vision. Zyro Wu, why are you here?" Enning Rongrong looked a little flustered and said with a forced smile. Zyro Wu also smiled, but her smile had a slightly strange charm. "Rongrong, I should ask you this question. What are you doing here so early in the morning?" Enning Rongrong's reaction was not slow, and she spoke immediately. "Oh, I just went to your room to look for you, but I found you weren't there, so I wanted to come over and ask Yin Hao if he knew where you were. I didn't expect you to be in his room." Zyro Wu seemed to believe it. She nodded and said, "Is that so?" Enning Rongrong secretly breathed a sigh of relief when Zyro Wu stopped asking questions, and then asked with a smile, "Why are you in Yin Hao's room this early in the morning?" Zyro Wu looked at Enning Rongrong and said with a smile on her face, I'm not the one who just came here this morning. Okay. Hearing this, Enning Rongrong instinctively felt something was wrong, but she still asked. Then when did you come? Zyro Wu put away her smile and took half a step towards Enning Rongrong's direction. Enning Rongrong was a little confused by Zyro Wu's sudden movement and asked with a slight frown. Zyro Wu, what are you doing? Zyro Wu didn't answer her words, but said lightly with a smile on the corner of her mouth. Rongrong, in fact, I came over last night, and the time happened to be a little earlier than you. Hearing this, Enning Rongrong's face turned pale in an instant, and she looked at Zyro Wu with a pair of big eyes full of shock. It wasn't that she was afraid of Zyro Wu, but that she didn't say what she was doing was legitimate, and she was caught red-handed. No wonder Yin Hao kept looking into the house last night. It turned out to be like this. Zyro Wu, I. Enning Rongrong looked at Zyro Wu in front of her and talked for a long time without saying a whole sentence. In the end, he could only lower his head and whisper. Sorry. Seeing Enning Rongrong's appearance, Zyro Wu felt a little relieved. Her purpose was not to embarrass Enning Rongrong, but to feel uncomfortable with this good sister's backstab. Seeing Enning Rongrong's appearance now, Zyro Wu felt a little angry. But she didn't intend to just let her go, but continued to speak. Rongrong, are you just going to say sorry to me? I still regard you as a good sister, but what about you? Haha. Hearing this, Enning Rongrong lowered his head even further. She didn't feel that Zyro Wu was lying, and she could feel Zyro Wu's affection for her. That's why Enning Rongrong felt guilty towards Zyro Wu. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. Enning Rongrong repeated every sentence without raising her head, just talking to herself. Zyro Wu seemed relieved and stretched out her hand towards Enning Rongrong. Enning Rongrong looked at the jade hand in front of her, was slightly taken aback, and looked at Zyro Wu in surprise. Zyro Wu shook her hand again, motioning for her. Only then did Enning Rongrong react like she was waking up from a dream, and reached out to hold Zyro Wu's hand. Seeing Enning Rongrong holding her hand, Zyro Wu also smiled, looked at Enning Rongrong and said, Rongrongs, you like Brother Hao, don't you? Hearing this, Enning Rongrong's heart trembled again. She didn't want to deny it, but she didn't want to admit it in front of Zyro Wu. She could only stand there blankly holding Zyro Wu's hand, at a loss for what to do. Zyro Wu seemed to notice her embarrassment, and continued. I don't mean to blame you, I just want to hear the truth. Tell me the truth from your own mouth, okay? Enning Rongrong looked at Zyro Wu, who looked serious, hesitated for a moment, and then nodded. Seeing Enning Rongrong nod, Zyro Wu slowly moved towards her, put her mouth next to Enning Rongrong's ear and whispered mysteriously. Actually, what you don't know is that Brother Hao actually likes you too. Hearing this news, Enning Rongrong's eyes widened again, with an expression of disbelief. But it's not that he can't believe the news, but that Zyro Wuhui told him the news. It's true. At this moment, Zyro Wu seemed to have returned to her usual lively and lovely appearance, looking at Enning Rongrong with a smile on her face. Brother Hao admitted it himself. How about it? Was it an accident? Enning Rongrong nodded blankly, with no less confusion and shock in his eyes. Then Zyro Wu took the initiative to walk out of the room, came outside, and spoke to Enning Rongrong. If you don't believe it, you can ask Brother Hao, he is inside. Forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to Infinite Novel Audio. Enning Rongrong looked at the door that opened wide in front of her. She didn't know what to say for a while, but finally she could only say one sentence. I believe. Hearing Enning Rongrong's answer, Zyro Wu smiled and nodded. In that case, I won't stop you. I have already agreed with Brother Hao that you can be with Brother Hao, but not in public, at least not for the time being. Brother Hao can only have one official girlfriend, me. Is that acceptable? What could Enning Rongrong not accept? From the beginning, when she confessed her love to Yin Hao, she never thought about making it public. After all, Yin Hao already has a girlfriend, so what's the point of having another one? Little 3. This word is easy to say but not pleasant to hear. Immediately nodded in agreement. Seeing Enning Rongrong agree, Zyro Wu nodded with satisfaction. He stepped forward again and took Enning Rongrong's hand and spoke. Isn't that good? We will still be good sisters in the future. Enning Rongrong admired Zyro Wu's brain circuit a little bit. What is this all about? Originally, she was confused when she heard Zyro Wu say that she came last night. If nothing else, at least the relationship between the two of them was over. Unexpectedly, Zyro Wu actually helped Yin Hao to pimp. Is this the legendary being strict with oneself? Yin Hao also walked out when the two were almost finished talking. As soon as she saw Yin Hao, Zyro Wu immediately let go of Enning Rongrong, who she had just held, and turned towards Yin Hao. Yin Hao didn't refuse and let her hang on him. Then Zyro Wu raised her head, lay on Yin Hao's shoulder, and whispered in that not-so-quiet voice. "Brother Hao, I've done everything for you, you can thank me well." The sound was indeed not loud, but the three people present were all soul masters, and they were not far away, so how could they not hear it? Chapter 110, The Idea of Absorbing Soul Bone. After hearing Zyro Wu's words, Enning Rongrong lowered her head again, clutching the two corners of her clothes with both hands, not knowing what she was thinking. Yin Hao patted Zyro Wu on the head, signaling her to stop talking. Zyro Wu was also very obedient. She shut her mouth immediately after receiving Yin Hao's order, and lay on Yin Hao's body peacefully without further words. "It's Rongrong." Yin Hao opened his mouth and called Enning Rongrong. "Okay." Hearing Yin Hao calling her, Enning Rongrong raised her head to look at Yin Hao. Zyro Wu also chose to get off Yin Hao with great interest, and walked towards the house. Without Zyro Wu by her side, Enning Rongrong was obviously not so embarrassed. She raised her head and looked at Yin Hao. I saw Yin Hao walking towards her slowly step by step. Looking at Yin Hao, who was getting closer and closer, Enning Rongrong was still a little at a loss. He could only play with the corner of the clothes at hand, while looking at Yin Hao, who was about to walk in front of him from the corner of his eyes. But the distance of just a few steps was covered in just over a second. Yin Hao stood in front of Enning Rongrong and looked at her with a smile. Enning Rongrong, on the other hand, lowered her head slightly and did not dare to look at Yin Hao. Yin Hao stretched out his hand to gently lift Enning Rongrong's face, looked into her eyes and said, "Rongrong, thank you very much for your like. I also like you too." Enning Rongrong blinked, not knowing how to respond to Yin Hao. Fortunately, Yin Hao didn't need her to respond. After saying this, without giving her time to reply, he lowered his head and touched Enning Rongrong's lips. Enning Rongrong's eyes were wide open with an incredulous expression on her face. Her hands were shaking from side to side, not knowing where to put them. However, with Yin Hao's personal guidance, Enning Rongrong gradually recovered from her daze. Her arms no longer shook, but she hugged Yin Hao's back with her backhand and began to respond. 5 minutes later, Yin Hao let go of Enning Rongrong, whose face was already red. Enning Rongrong wiped the corners of her mouth with a hand and gave Yin Hao a resentful look. Before she could say anything, Zyro Wu jumped out of nowhere. "Are you finished kissing? Let's go after kissing. I didn't go shopping enough yesterday." While speaking, he walked between Yin Hao and Enning Rongrong and held both of them by their arms. "Enning Rongrong is numb. I'm kissing your boyfriend. Is that how you react?" If not knowing that Zyro Wu and Yin Hao have been together for many years, Enning Rongrong would have wondered whether Zyro Wu was controlled by Yin Hao with some kind of illusion to become like this. Wait, illusion. Enning Rongrong frowned slightly. When she thought of illusion, she thought of one person, Zhu Zhuking. "What's wrong, Rongrong?" Seeing that Enning Rongrong was not moving, Zyro Wu couldn't help but look back curiously. Enning Rongrong, who was awakened by the sound, immediately came back to her senses, put on a smile again, and followed Zyro Wu's footsteps. As for Zhu Zhuking's question, regardless of her, my goal has been achieved, so let's talk about her. Another night. After spending a day with Zyro Wu and Enning Rongrong, Yin Hao also returned to Shrek's male dormitory. System, open the system panel. The system panel is open. Host, Yin Hao. Martial Spirit, the first Martial Spirit. Blue Silver Emperor, second Martial Spirit. Sharing and kaleidoscopic. Soul Power, level 54. Chinese letter, 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 Chinese letter. 500 Chinese letter, Chinese letter. 7,000 Chinese letter Chinese letter Chinese letter Chinese letter Chinese letter 500 Chinese letter Chinese letter Chinese letter Chinese letter 8,000 Chinese letter Chinese letter 6 Chinese letter Chinese letter. Second martial spirit, black 5 years, black 5 years. Soul bone, ice dragon armor attached to soul bone, can grow, bloodline, blue silver emperor bloodline, 49% awakened. Assets, gold soul, coin million. Yin Hao paused for a moment, while looking at the more than 1,000 million gold soul coins on the system panel. Do you want to say that more than 1,000 million gold soul coins are too small? That must be a lot. An ordinary person would not be able to earn so much money after working from birth to death, and after going through dozens of reincarnations. How much do you want to say? It's not a lot, it's just the money for a kaleidoscope. It stands to reason that Yin Hao's current soul power level can be exchanged for a pair of kaleidoscopes. However, there is an issue that still needs to be considered. That is the unavoidable problem of twin martial souls. If he absorbs another pair of kaleidoscopes, he will naturally absorb the 2 5-year-old soul rings that come with them. Coupled with the 5 soul rings of the first martial soul that he himself had, this made Yin Hao have to worry about whether his small body could hold it up. And the solution to this problem is also very straightforward. That is, the soul bone. I don't like it if I have a low age. Even if I can pass the trading test to increase the number of years, it is better to directly absorb a spirit bone with a relatively high age. And the spirit bones of high age. Thinking of this, Yin Hao's eyes lit up, and the corners of his mouth slightly curled up. What is a high-year spirit bone? The rewards of the Soul Master competition given by Wuhandian are nothing, such as 3-year-old and 5-year-old soul bones. According to the original book, there should be a 10-year-old right leg bone in the Holy Soul Village. Right, I'm sorry, Zyrosan. Jai. Because Yu Zyrogang gave everyone 2 months to absorb the combat experience during this period, that is, stocking up. Therefore Yin Hao has plenty of time. In the next 10 days, he either practiced or went shopping with Zyro Enning Rongrong, and was bullied by the kitten from time to time at night. Oscar still sticks to Enning Rongrong as before, even though Enning Rongrong clearly rejected him many times. Tang San locked himself in a room and basically couldn't see him except for eating. Ma Hongjun, on the other hand, completely let himself go, hanging out in Gulan every day and barely ever living in Shrek. He even spent all his money in Gulan and came to Yin Hao to borrow money. As for Dai Mubai, I don't know what to do every day, and he often stays out at night anyway, and he seems to have become rich. Not only has he returned thousands of gold soul coins to Yin Hao one after another, but he also bought himself a lot of new clothes. Ladies' new clothes. Shrek Academy entrance. In the past month, the people of Shrek had rarely gathered together again. For no other reason than because the generous, good brother, Yin Hao, a good friend of everyone in the college, needs to leave the college for a while again. After everyone finished exchanging greetings with Yin Hao also turned around and got into the carriage he bought in advance, waving goodbye to everyone. Flender couldn't help but sighed as he watched the carriage driving away on the dirt road. Hey, Zyrohao, what a good kid, why do bad things happen to him? His grandfather recovered from his illness a few months ago, and before he had time to be happy again, why? As he spoke, Flanders sighed, feeling sorry for what happened to Yin Hao. That's right, Yin Hao found another excuse similar to last time to ask for leave. There is no other way, just this excuse. The dean is fine, Grandpa Jack is a good man, nothing will happen. Tang San stood next to Flanders and comforted him, his words full of concern for old Jack. Flender looked at Tang San, seemed to think of something, and asked, Hey Zyrosan, I heard from Zyrohao that his grandpa seemed to take good care of you when you were young. Don't you want to go back with Zyrohao? Hearing this, Tang San, who was still worried about old Jack, froze for a moment, then forced a smile. Oh, yes. Grandpa Jack took good care of me when I was a child. I am also worried about him, but this isn't. I'm at a critical juncture in my cultivation recently. The teacher won't let me travel far. Hearing Tang San's excuse, Flender gave him a suspicious look, but turned and left without saying anything. Chapter 111, Returning to Holy Soul Village. The carriage was walking on the road, making a click sound as it rolled over fallen leaves. Yin Hao sat in the carriage, stretched out his hand to lift the curtain on the carriage window, and looked outside. After several days of traveling, Yin Hao finally saw the familiar dirt road again. Still so dilapidated, as if no one had ever repaired it. It has been almost a year since I last left here for Soto City. Yin Hao still misses this place where he grew up. Brother Hao's here we are. A voice came from outside the carriage, pulling Yin Hao back from his thoughts. Yin Hao stood up from the carriage, opened the curtain in front of him, and walked out of the carriage. Looking around, it was still the same familiar place. The wooden sign had the 3 characters, Holy Soul Village, written on it, and next to the words there was still the familiar handprint. According to old Jack, those are the handprints of the Soul Saint who walked out of the Holy Soul Village. This is also the pride of the entire Holy Soul Village. Yin Hao got off the carriage, glanced at Nihuang standing next to him, smiled and said, "How's it going, Sister Nihuang? I'm not lying to you, I really grew up in a small ravine." Nihuang glanced at Yin Hao, then at the slightly dilapidated village, and nodded. She thought that with Yin Hao's talent, even if the child was not raised in a big family, his family would still have good conditions. She really didn't expect that the place where Yin Hao grew up would be so shabby. Thinking of this, Nihuang looked at Yin Hao with a little distress. Yin Hao didn't care about Nihuang's reaction, but turned his head to look at the Holy Soul Village in front of him. "Let's go, Sister Nihuang, I haven't been back for a long time, I went home with me to have a look." After saying that, without waiting for Nihuang's reply, he walked straight into the Holy Soul Village. Nihuang also followed closely behind. When he was at Notting College, Yin Hao came back often. So many people in the village still remembered Yin Hao's appearance, and many people greeted Yin Hao along the way. "Oh, isn't this the boy from old Jack's family? He's back." "Yes, Aunt Lee, are you in good health?" "So far, so good." "Are you Xiao Hao? This is your girlfriend, she looks so pretty." "Uncle Zhao, long time no see, how are you doing?" "It's just like that, I eat and wait to die every day, haha." Yin Hao walked slowly along the way, not using his soul power to speed up, nor deliberately changing his appearance to avoid trouble. Whenever he met someone he knew, he would smile and say hello, and would also say a few words to Nihuang behind him from time to time. Arriving at the door of old Jack's house, Yin Hao was about to open the door, but found a large lock hanging on the door. Just when Yin Hao was confused, a voice came from behind Yin Hao. "Is it Xiao Hao? Are you back to see Grandpa you?" Yin Hao turned his head to look at the visitor, and responded with a smile. "Yes, Grandpa Joe, but I wonder why my house is locked. Where is my grandpa?" Grandpa Joe didn't write any ink, and pointed to the center of the village and said, "You kid, today is the day to awaken your martial soul. Of course your grandpa is at the martial soul hall." Yin Hao was stunned when he heard this. No wonder he didn't even see a child along the way. It turned out that he was going to awaken his martial spirit. He immediately thanked Grandpa Joe, and turned around and walked towards the Wuhan Palace. At this time, I am outside the Wuhan Hall of Holy Soul Village. Old Jack was standing at the door anxiously, waiting for what was going on inside. The soul power of Su Yuntao inside was mobilized, possessed by the lone wolf martial spirit, and 2 soul rings, one white and one yellow, surrounded his body. "Come on, kid, open your right hand." Su Yuntao looked at the little girl in the hexagram and said. The little girl also nodded, obediently. As her right hand was opened, a small sickle instantly appeared in her hand. Seeing this, Su Yuntao was not disappointed, or in other words, he didn't have much hope in the first place. After seeing the sickle martial soul awakened by the little girl, he also nodded and said, "Weapon martial spirit, sickle not bad. If it has soul power, it can be considered a good martial spirit. Come on, kid, put your hand on the crystal ball." While speaking, Su Yuntao took out the crystal ball, specially used for testing innate soul power, from beside him. The little girl put her right hand on it according to his instructions, but after waiting for a long time, there was still no movement. Innate soul power, none, unfortunately, you cannot become a soul master. The little girl nodded blankly. Maybe she didn't understand what "can't become a soul master" meant. Next. As one child after another awakened their spirits, Su Yuntao also led a group of children out of the spirit hall. Old Jack, who had been waiting outside for a long time, saw Su Yuntao coming out and rushed to greet him. How about Master Su Yuntao? Can a child become a soul master? Su Yuntao shook his head. It can't be that easy. None of the 11 children this year has soul power. Although old Jack didn't have much hope at the beginning, he was somewhat disappointed after hearing the answer given by Su Yuntao. Su Yuntao and old Jack were old acquaintances, and when they saw old Jack's appearance, he sighed lightly and stepped forward to comfort him. Don't be too disappointed. I've been to so many villages, but I haven't seen a child with soul power. At least your village gave birth to a child with a 3rd level innate soul power last year. Hearing what Su Yuntao said, old Jack forced a smile. Yes, Master Su Yuntao, you have been busy for a long time. Please stay here and have a bite to eat. Su Yuntao bowed his hands and said, Forget it, there are more than a dozen children in Emperor Soul Village, next to me waiting for me to awaken my martial soul. Let's talk about it next time I have a chance. After speaking, he was ready to leave. Old Jack nodded when he heard this. He couldn't delay the child by delaying anything, so he didn't say anything more. At this moment, a voice came from behind the two of them. Grandpa, I'm back. Old Jack was obviously stunned when he heard this voice. The hand holding the cane trembled slightly unconsciously, and then he quickly turned around and looked back. Su Yuntao also heard the sound and looked back, driven by curiosity. I saw a handsome young man with long blue hair wearing a white robe that was very expensive, walking towards the side. And behind him was a hot, short-haired beauty, also walking towards this side. Su Yuntao was stunned when he saw Nihuang for the first time. His cherry mouth, willow eyebrows, and pair of peach blossom eyes seemed to be releasing fire outwards, which was fascinating. The cold expression made people dare not get close, and could only look at it from a distance. It was pure and lustful, and it was more beautiful than Sissy. No, how could I think so? She is still pretty. No matter who she compares with, she must still be pretty. Su Yuntao thought secretly in his heart. Chapter 112, Misunderstood Nihuang as Girlfriend. Yin Hao walked up to old Jack and said with a smile, Grandpa, I'm back. Well, old Jack nodded while smiling, and the gaps in the corners of his eyes were filled with tears in the first place. Old Jack, is this your grandson? Su Yuntao asked curiously. He knew Yin Hao before, but he hadn't seen him for so many years. In addition, Yin Hao had grown from a 1.3-meter high doll to a 1.8-meter plus young man now, which has changed a lot. It's normal that he didn't recognize it for a while. Before old Jack could answer, Yin Hao spoke first. Brother Tao, long time no see. Hearing Yin Hao's words, Su Yuntao was taken aback, and instead of replying in a hurry, he frowned slightly and looked Yin Hao up and down. We know each other, Su Yuntao said with some uncertainty. To be honest, Yin Hao looked familiar to him, but he just couldn't remember where he saw him. Yin Hao was not surprised by Su Yuntao's doubts, but said with a smile. Of course I do. You helped me obtain my first spirit ring. 7 years ago, in the Hunting Soul Forest and the Xuantan Ice Dragon, do you remember? Oh, it's your kid. Hearing what Yin Hao said, Su Yuntao immediately remembered. After all, as a great soul master, he successfully fought with a 2,000-year-old Xuantan Ice Dragon for more than rounds. He has been bragging about it for several years. Su Yuntao also laughed. I didn't expect you, kid, to grow up so big in a blink of an eye. Then he looked at Nihuang Duluo standing behind Yin Hao, and said in a slightly obscene manner in a playful way. It's not bad that I found such a beautiful girlfriend. Yin Hao looked back at Nihuang, chuckled, and did not refute. Nihuang also smiled and didn't refute, and she didn't need to refute. If she wanted to say that she was not Yin Hao's girlfriend but a titled Duluo, she wouldn't be scared to death by the great soul master in front of her. So far, Su Yuntao's great soul master's resume has added a challenge titled Duluo after the war against the Xuantan Ice Flood Dragon. On the contrary, old Jack frowned slightly after seeing Nihuang and seemed to want to say something, but considering that there were others here, he swallowed it back. Afterwards, Yin Hao chatted with Su Yuntao for a few more words, and Su Yuntao saw that it was getting late, so he spoke. Okay, it's getting late. Emperor Soul Village is still waiting for me, so I'll go first. After speaking, he waved to Yin Hao and prepared to leave. But before he lifted his foot, Yin Hao stopped him again. Wait, Brother Tao. Su Yuntao turned around to look at Yin Hao with some doubts, not knowing what he wanted to do. I saw Yin Hao raised his hand and lightly stroked the ring on his left hand with his right hand, and immediately there were two bulging small bags in his hand. Brother Tao, I haven't really thanked you and Grandpa Masu for so many years. This is my heart. One bag is for you and the other bag is for you, Brother Tao. Please help pass it to Masu. Grandpa, things generally hope that Brother Tao will not dislike you. You kid. Su Yuntao cursed with a smile but did not refuse, and then took the bag. As soon as he took the bag, the heavy feeling in his hands made Su Yuntao wrinkle every day. It's quite heavy. Out of curiosity, Su Yuntao opened one of the bags directly. As soon as he opened it, Su Yuntao was dumbfounded. The bright golden soul coins looked particularly dazzling under the sunlight, and they were stacked in the bag one by one without any order, which made Su Yuntao swallow unconsciously. This. Su Yuntao raised his head and looked at Yin Hao, his face full of shock. I also hope Brother Tao won't dislike him. Dislike? What are you kidding? How much money does he have a month? There are at least a few hundred gold soul coins in such a bag, which is a huge sum of money, okay? In addition, he is not young anymore, so it's fine if he doesn't achieve anything in his career. If he doesn't even have any money, what's the point of chasing the goddess Sissy? After a brief struggle, Su Yuntao also agreed with a smile on his face and left a sentence. I will find my brother if I have anything in the future, and left in a hurry. In fact, he also knew that a person who could take out hundreds of thousands of gold soul coins at will, how could he need the help of a great soul master like him? After Su Yuntao left, Yin Hao returned home with Old Jack. Old Jack walked in front, and Yin Hao followed behind. He originally wanted to help Old Jack, but he said, I'm not too old to walk, and turned back, so he could only follow behind obediently. However, Yin Hao could clearly feel that Old Jack's walking speed was much slower than before, and his figure became hunched. I don't know why, but Yin Hao always feels that the way Old Jack looks at him is a bit wrong, which means that the more he looks at him, the more unpleasant he looks. But he was quite enthusiastic towards Nihong. He smiled and asked her what she wanted to eat, and asked her if she had any taboos, which made Nihong feel uncomfortable, and looked at Yin Hao with embarrassment from time to time. Yin Hao was also a little speechless, hearing Old Jack's little girl jumping out. He wanted to say, she's not much younger than you. In the end, after Old Jack asked Nihong over and over again, he went to the vegetable market to buy vegetables contentedly. As for Yin Hao, nothing makes sense. After Old Jack left, Nihong breathed a sigh of relief and patted her chest, causing ripples. Then he looked at Yin Hao, who was on the side, and said, Brother Hao, your grandfather, is very enthusiastic. Yin Hao looked at her helplessly. He should think of you as my girlfriend. Hearing this, Nihong was stunned for a moment, then turned his eyes and smiled, stood up and walked towards Yin Hao. Then, under Yin Hao's puzzled eyes, he sat directly beside him, raised his arm and gently brushed the long blue hair beside Yin Hao's ear. Is that so? Then, since your grandfather regards me as your girlfriend, doesn't Brother Hao have any ideas? While talking, Nihong leaned towards Yin Hao, and the hot air she exhaled kept brushing against Yin Hao's ears. Can Yin Hao endure this? The corners of the mouth raised slightly, and he raised his arms to hug Nihong with his backhand. But what kind of cultivation is Nihong, titled Duluo? The moment Yin Hao just raised his hand, he noticed his movement, and he stood up directly, leaving Yin Hao with an empty hug. Then, before Yin Hao had time to withdraw his arm, he raised his long leg, which was more than 1 meter long, and pressed Yin Hao's arm on the sofa. Brother Hao, what is he doing? Do you want to do something strange to your sister? Chapter 113, Meeting A Yin for the first time. Brother Hao, what is he doing? Do you want to do something strange to your sister? While speaking, Nihong moved her long legs that were pressing on Yin Hao's arm, and crushed Yin Hao's arm back and forth. Although it doesn't hurt, it's extremely insulting. Yin Hao didn't reply. He raised his other hand and attacked Nihong's long leg that was pressing his arm. Yin Hao's speed is not slow. It is faster than people in the same realm or even a higher realm, but it is nothing to Nihuang. Nihuang looked at Yin Hao's attacking, evil hand without the slightest sign of panic and didn't even hide. Just when Yin Hao's hand was about to touch Nihuang's long legs, Nihuang gently lifted his leg, making Yin Hao miss nothing, and then quickly fell down, pressing both of Yin Hao's arms on the ground. Down the leg. Haha, brother Hao, what exactly do you want to do? Let's be honest, my sister won't let me, haha. Yin Hao glanced at Nihuang helplessly. Okay, Sister Nihuang, stop making trouble. Unexpectedly, after hearing Yin Hao's words, Nihuang not only didn't intend to let go, she even sat on the sofa and crossed her other leg. What's wrong, brother Hao? Didn't you want to touch your sister's leg just now? I can't tell you still have this hobby. But you can tell my sister, it's not like my sister won't let me. While saying this, Nihuang leaned towards Yin Hao, and the softness in front of her almost hit Yin Hao's face. You should let me go, Yin Hao secretly complained in his heart. However, the situation is stronger than others, and Yin Hao can only give in. Good sister, don't make trouble, can't I be wrong? After hearing Yin Hao's words, Nihuang let him go, raised her legs and released his arms. But he still kissed Yin Hao's face and said, Stop trying to provoke sister, little brother, ha ha ha. After speaking, Nihuang smiled and left the sofa. Yin Hao looked at Nihuang's back and couldn't help but feel helpless in his eyes. Obviously you provoked me, but I have to say that I provoked you. If it weren't for your high cultivation, I would have to let you know the difference between a little brother and a big brother. After 2 days like this, Yin Hao still didn't know why old Jack was unhappy with him. However, Nihuang got along very well with him, and the old Jack who called him Grandpa Jack smiled all over his face, not caring at all that he was not much younger than old Jack. However, titled Duluo's lifespan is much longer than that of ordinary people. According to the original book, after breaking through level 90, each level up increases the lifespan by 100 years. So in this way, Nihuang's age is actually not too old anyway. Nihuang thinks so, and does not accept rebuttals. Brother Hao, what are you looking for? We've been shopping for a long time. Nihuang in the sky put one arm around Yin Hao's waist and asked. Find a good place. Yin Hao responded casually. Seeing that Yin Hao didn't want to say anything, Nihuang had no intention of continuing to ask. Anyway, he would know when he found him later. Before I knew it, another 10 minutes passed. Yin Hao, who was holding Nihuang, suddenly raised his head, brushed his forehead against the softness in front of Nihuang, and spoke. Sister Nihuang, we've arrived, it's the small cave in front. Well, hold tight, let's go over. There is no sunlight in the dark cave, and the humid and dark environment makes people feel a little uncomfortable. Nihuang landed steadily on the ground in front of the cave, and her high-heeled shoes stepped on the stone and made 2 clicks. Yin Hao let go of his hands around Nihuang's waist, turned around and walked towards the inside of the cave. Although Nihuang was a little puzzled, she didn't say anything and just followed Yin Hao silently. Coming to the inside of the cave, the environment inside is not good. It can only be said to be too bad. The humid environment, the rough cave walls, the cobwebs everywhere, and even a few mice made Nihuang frowned. Continuing to walk inside, a feeling of intimacy began to appear in Yin Hao's heart, and it became stronger and stronger. Until they reached the end of the cave, a thick green blue-silver grass with some golden stripes appeared in front of their eyes. Seeing the appearance of this blue-silver grass, Nihuang was slightly shocked. Is this the same as Brother Hao's martial spirit, Blue-Silver Emperor? Why are you here? Nihuang looked at the slightly sluggish Blue-Silver Emperor in front of her, frowned slightly, but said nothing. Yin Hao looked at the Blue-Silver Emperor in front of him and raised the corners of his mouth slightly. Blue-Silver Emperor Yin was Tang Rishan's first wife. How can he accidentally find out that his wife is gone one day in the future, and then accidentally finds that his wife is lying in someone else's arms? What kind of scene will it be? Yin Hao licked his lips, and the smile on his face gradually became wilder. As if feeling the blood contained in Yin Hao's body, Yin's body, which was a little sluggish, trembled, and the leaves on the vine also swayed, as if expressing his inner excitement. Yin Hao walked up to Yin, stretched out his hand, and gently touched its vines. Yin also seemed to have sensed it, and obediently attached the dark green vine to Yin Hao's extended hand, rubbing it lightly. Yin Hao squatted down, looked down at the grass, representing the blue-silver Emperor A Yin, and said, "Can I take you away?" Nihwang gave Yin Hao a strange look. Brother Hao can't be stupid, can he? He is talking to a grass. It is good. A voice came into Yin Hao's ears, but only he could hear it. This was one of the basic abilities brought to him by the blue-silver domain, and he could directly communicate spiritually with the blue-silver grass. Then before that, I need you to tell me, is there a soul bone that belongs to you nearby? Hearing Yin Hao's words, Ah Yin obviously paused, then swayed the vines and pointed to a place next to him. Yin Hao had no doubts. He walked to the position pointed by A Yin, summoned a blue-silver grass shovel, stretched out his hand and started digging. This made Nihwang on the side look stupid. This is talking to grass and digging in a cave. Brother Hao must have been stimulated by something, right? Could it be that I have been a little too much these 2 days? Then should I? In fact, it's not impossible. Looking at the figure of Yin Hao digging the ground, Nihwang thought silently in her heart. Of course Yin Hao didn't know what Nihwang was thinking. He was still digging down with concentration. After a while, with the sound of dang, Yin Hao obviously felt the shovel was resisted. Yin Hao raised the shovel and shoveled it twice, and with 2 dang-dang sounds, Yin Hao smiled again. He leaned down and used a shovel to gently peel away the soil covering it. A very ordinary-looking box appeared in front of Yin Hao's eyes. Chapter 114, Absorbing Spirit Bones, the second pair of kaleidoscopes. What is this? Nihwang stood aside and asked curiously. Yin Hao didn't look back, but took the box out of the ground and said, "This is what I'm looking for." It was a black box. The box was long and about 1.5 meters long and 1 foot wide. It's very heavy to start with. It actually weighs more than 200 catties. Flick with your fingers, making an aggressive sound. After the box was taken out, Ah Yin also put vines on the box, as if the contents inside were very important to her. Yin Hao gently put his hand on the lid of the box and exerted a little force. Accompanied by a squeak, the box opened in response. An unparalleled surging aura rushed out from the gap, instantly making the surrounding space seem to freeze, and rushed directly in the direction of Yin Hao and Nihwang. Nihwang was shocked when he felt this power. In just a moment, he completed the possession of the martial spirit. A golden phoenix appeared together with flames all over its body, and its strong soul power immediately blocked back the powerful aura coming out of the box. However, Nihwang didn't care about herself at this time, but immediately stepped forward to help Yin Hao stop this powerful momentum that might cause harm to him. But before she could step forward, she was stopped by Yin Hao, who was holding the box in one hand and looking back at Nihwang with a smile. "Sister Nihwang, don't be nervous, I'm fine." Hearing Yin Hao's words, Nihwang also stopped in her tracks, and looked at Yin Hao carefully to make sure that the aura did not cause any harm to Yin Hao, and then walked back with confidence. However, he did not take back his martial soul, but still looked at Yin Hao's direction seriously, ready to deal with emergencies at any time. Yin Hao turned his head and opened the box completely, and the items inside were also revealed to the 2 of them. In the long-laid box, there is a peculiar right leg bone. The whole body is a crystal-clear blue-gold color, and there seems to be a little starlight twinkling inside. The corners of Yin Hao's mouth rose slightly, and the joy on his face was also revealed. "This is a soul bone." Nihwang couldn't help being startled, pointing at the box and shouting. Judging from the momentum, the age of this soul bone is definitely not low, at least not less than 8 years, or even the legendary 10-year-old soul bone. Thinking of this, Nihwang couldn't help being taken aback by her own thoughts. "Brother Hao, this is?" Nihwang asked suspiciously. Yin Hao didn't hide anything and said directly, "Sister Nihwang, do you know how the former Pope Qian Zunji died 13 years ago?" Nihwang gave Yin Hao a strange look. Who doesn't know about this? Doesn't the whole continent know? Although puzzled, Nihwang still spoke. "I heard that it was to hunt down a 10-year-old transformed soul beast, and that transformed soul beast was Heoshan Duluo Tang Hao's wife, and the 2 fled together, but were still found by the former Pope. When she was dying, she sacrificed her soul ring to Tang Hao, helped him break through to title Duluo, and killed the former Pope." Yin Hao nodded when he heard the words. Nihuang didn't know the real cause of Chihiro Jai's death, but it didn't matter. A 10-year soul beast must drop a soul bone. Hearing Yin Hao's words, Nihuang was a little confused at first, but she seemed to have thought of something again. Her eyes widened instantly, and she pointed to the soul bone in the box and said, "Brother Hao, you mean that this is?" Yin Hao didn't deny it but nodded. The astonishment on Nihuang's face could no longer be hidden. If she just suspected it was a very old spirit bone at first, she was almost sure now. Looking at the soul bones in front of her, Nihuang swallowed lightly, and a hint of heat flashed in her eyes, but she was immediately dismissed by herself. Yin Hao naturally noticed it too, but he didn't say anything. "It's nothing. Isn't it human nature to like good things?" Yin Hao lowered his head to look at the blue-silver Emperor Yin, who was still rubbing against his leg, and smiled lightly. "Sister Nihuang, have you seen this blue-silver Emperor? It is the 10-year-old soul beast after the sacrifice, which is Tang Hao's wife." Nihuang glanced down when he heard this. A trace of curiosity flashed in his eyes. Slowly squatting down, wanting to rub this legendary 10-year-old soul beast with his hands. But Yin seemed to hate her aura very much, and kept twisting the dark green vines to avoid Nihuang's jade hand. It's not that Yin knows that Nihuang is a member of Wuhan Palace. It is actually not considered the real blue-silver Emperor Yin now. It is just an ordinary blue-silver grass soul, beast with the blood of blue-silver Emperor. That's all. Yin's consciousness was in a deep sleep. As for why it hates Nihuang, it should be because of the Nihuang martial soul, which is a fire-type martial soul. Nihuang played for a while, felt that it was not interesting, and stood up again. "Brother Hao, are you going to absorb this spirit bone now?" Yin Hao nodded. "Yes, Sister Nihuang, please help me go outside the cave and take a look. Don't let anyone in." Without the slightest hesitation, Nihuang directly agreed, turned around and walked out of the cave. When Nihuang left, Yin Hao did not wait any longer. Instead, he sat cross-legged on the ground. Placed the right leg bone of the blue-silver Emperor on his right leg, and began to absorb it. There was a slight buzzing sound, and Yin Hao only felt his right leg tremble slightly, and then the cool breath quietly penetrated into his leg from all directions. That crystal blue soul bone quietly disappeared, turning into countless blue-gold air currents that permeated around his right leg. Cool and comfortable, without any hindrance, Yin Hao could clearly feel the power coming from the bone of the blue-silver Emperor's right leg, continuously pouring into his body. The medicinal effects of the 4 immortal herbs that had been absorbed and remained in Yin Hao's body were also completely stimulated with the absorption of the soul bone. They merged, penetrated, and traveled in Yin Hao's body, strengthening his body and strengthening his soul. Force. Yin, who was beside Yin Hao, seemed to sense something, and the green vines gently wrapped around Yin Hao's body, like a mother comforting her child. 1 hour, 2 hours, soon half a day passed. When Yin Hao woke up again, the originally bright sky outside the cave had dimmed, stars hung in the sky, and the bright moonlight filled the earth. Coal. Yin Hao opened his eyes and took a breath. In just half a day, he had completely absorbed the right leg bone of the blue-silver Emperor, and his soul power had reached the peak of level 58, only a short step away from level 59. Yin, who was surrounded by Yin Hao, also seemed to feel Yin Hao's waking up, waving vines and leaves to express his inner joy. Chapter 115, Absorbing Soul Bones, the second pair of kaleidoscopes. Yin Hao chuckled and touched Yin's vines, and Yin rubbed Yin Hao's stretched-out hand obediently. "Follow me, will you?" Hearing Yin Hao's words, Yin hesitated a little, but obediently placed the vine on Yin Hao's hand to express his agreement. Upon seeing this, Yin Hao took out the flower pot he had prepared in advance and put Yin in, and then his eyes changed. The original black and white was replaced by red in an instant, and 3 black hook jades appeared in the eyes, and then quickly connected at the tail to form a windmill shape. Divine power. As Yin Hao drank out, the flower pot containing Yin disappeared instantly. And Yin Hao also stood up after the flower pot disappeared. "It's getting late, let's go home first." Then he got up and walked out. At the same time, in a small mountain village thousands of miles away, a scruffy middle-aged man wearing a black robe to hide his face suddenly felt flustered. The middle-aged man felt this sudden feeling and couldn't help but frown. "What's going on? I haven't felt this way for a long time." Then he stood up, walked outside, and looked into the distance under the bright moonlight. Yin, it's been a long time since I went back. When I finish my work here, I'll go back and see yours. The screen changed again, and Yin Hao and Nihuang had returned to the Holy Soul Village. When Nihuang stopped, Yin Hao got off her and stood on the ground. Let's go, Sister Nihuang, my grandfather should be waiting. Oh. A man and a woman were walking on the dirt road of Holy Soul Village. Although it was not smooth, their soul power levels were not low, so it didn't matter. The quiet road is no longer lively during the day, except for the occasional chirping of birds not long after. The two of them had arrived not far from the door of their house. Before he even reached the door, he saw a rickety figure standing at the door from a distance, looking left and right. No need to ask, it must be old Jack. A smile appeared on the corner of Yin Hao's mouth, and a warm current flowed through his heart. Looking back at Nihuang, he spoke. Let's go, Sister Nihuang, Grandpa is waiting for the two of us. Oh. Walking to the door, old Jack, who noticed the two of them, also stopped looking around, walked towards them with a cane, and then, directly ignoring Yin Hao, who reached out to help him, he walked to Nihuang and said with a concerned face, Zyro Nai, why did you come back so late? Girls shouldn't stay out at night, it's very dangerous. Yin Hao looked at old Jack, who was greeting Nihuang, and then at his outstretched arm. He didn't know whether to take it back or keep it open. Nihuang glanced at Yin Hao with a smile, then reached out to support old Jack. Okay, I understand, Grandpa. It won't happen next time. It's getting late. Let's go home first. Well, good boy, let's go home. It wasn't until the two of them reached the door that old Jack turned his head to look at Yin Hao, frowned slightly, and said, Why are you still standing outside? Why don't you come in? If you don't come in, shut us out. Hearing what old Jack said, Nihuang laughed outright, covered her mouth, and raised her eyebrows at Yin Hao provocatively. Yin Hao. Back in the house, old Jack thoughtfully kept food for the two of them. Although there is no problem in eating a few meals for both of them, after seeing the food left by old Jack, he still ate it with dignity. Quite a lot. After eating, he talked with old Jack for a while before returning to his room. System, open the system mal. The system mal has been opened. Looking at the dazzling array of products in the system mal, Yin Hao had no idea of admiration, but went straight to the sharing in area. System, exchange for kaleidoscope writing wheel I. The Manjikai of Sharingen was redeemed successfully, costing gold soul coins *1,000 million. With a flash of white light, a transparent glass bottle with a pair of strange eyes instantly appeared in Yin Hao's hand. And Yin Hao's account balance also changed from more than 100 million gold soul coins to more than 100 million. Looking at his account balance that fell into poverty, again, Yin Hao couldn't help sighing. Hey, I still have to make money quickly. Yin Hao shook his head, interrupting his thoughts, and then looked at the bottle in his hand again. System, help me integrate. As Yin Hao's voice fell, the sharing in the bottle in his hand disappeared instantly, and the familiar tingling sensation came from his eyes again. Yin Hao frowned tightly, enduring the pain from his eyes, but he has already had the experience of merging sharing in several times, so it is much smoother than the previous few times. Half an hour later, the pain slowly faded away, and Yin Hao slowly opened his eyes. Looking at the 4 10,000-year spirit rings around him, Yin Hao nodded, then the windmill in his left eye turned, and the third spirit ring beside him lit up, and he shouted, Amaterasu. As Yin Hao shouted, a strange black flame instantly appeared on the stool in front of him. In just a split second, the originally intact stool disappeared in a puff of smoke. The power is still acceptable. It is indeed the strongest physical attack known as the World of 5 Villages, although it has not burned anyone. Then Yin Hao stood up again, the windmill in his right eye turned, and the fourth soul ring beside him also lit up. Add earth life. As Yin Hao spoke again, the black flames that had disappeared reappeared and formed various shapes under Yin Hao's control. TNND, it's Sasuke's kaleidoscope. Yin Hao sighed helplessly, apparently not very satisfied with the things exchanged this time. Shisui's, Itachi's, and Madara's can't be given to anyone, but Sasuke's kaleidoscope, which has the most room for improvement. But before Yin Hao could complain, he heard old Jack's voice coming from outside again. "Why are you making such noise in the middle of the night? If you don't sleep, don't delay Zyro Nai's sleep." Yin Hao. Yin Hao stayed in Holy Soul Village for another week and accompanied old Jack well, even though Nihuang was always with him. It wasn't until a week later, when Yin Hao told old Jack that he and Nihuang were preparing to leave, that he finally understood why old Jack had been displeased with him in the past few days. On the night before leaving, old Jack secretly pulled Yin Hao aside and looked at Yin Hao for 10 minutes with a warning look on his face, where he was sure that Nihuang couldn't hear him. After seeing Yin Hao's hair, Yao Yu spoke. "Where's that girl named Zyro Wu from before?" "What?" Yin Hao didn't react for a while, and was slightly taken aback by old Jack's question. "What are you? I liked that child Zyro Wu before, but now that you have broken up with her, Grandpa won't force you anymore, but this child is also very good. I'll kill you, bastard." As he spoke, old Jack raised his crutch, as if he was about to hit him. Yin Hao was afraid that the old man would be flabbergasted, so he quickly stepped forward to support him, and quickly agreed to let him go, so old Jack let him go. Chapter 116, Returning to Martial Soul City. After leaving the Holy Soul Village, Yin Hao and Nihuang went straight to the Star Forest to hunt for soul rings. In the Stardew Great Forest, Yin Hao was sitting cross-legged to absorb the soul ring, and a soul ring that was all black but faintly revealing a trace of red texture surrounded him. And beside him there was a huge strange flower. Nihuang stood behind Yin Hao, guarding the surroundings to prevent blind soul beasts from approaching, while nervously looking at Yin Hao, who was still absorbing the soul ring. Liu Mei frowned tightly, and her long legs paced back and forth anxiously. Half an hour later, the soul power around Yin Hao finally stabilized, and the soul ring that was still floating up and down around him gradually calmed down and began to melt into Yin Hao's body. "Cole!" With a breath of turbid air, Yin Hao finally opened his closed eyes and felt the soul power in his body, which was level 62. Seeing this scene, Nihuang finally felt relieved, got up and walked towards Yin Hao. "Brother Hao, you finally finished absorbing it. Sister, I'm so nervous." Yin Hao stood up, smiled and nodded to Nihuang, but did not reply. "Okay, tell me about your soul skills." Yin Hao didn't hesitate and spoke directly. "My sixth soul skill is called Blue-Silver Soul Devouring Formation, which is very similar to that flower's devouring ability. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to Infinite Novel Audio." Yin Hao pointed to the strange big flower lying on the ground and continued. "Any opponent within the range of my sixth soul ring will be continuously devoured by my sixth soul ring for my use of soul power, even if the opponent's soul skills are within the range of my sixth soul skills within a short period of time. The soul power contained in it will also be swallowed by my blue-silver soul devouring array. If the soul power is not strong enough, it may be directly absorbed by me as soon as it is released." Hearing this, Nihuang looked at Yin Hao in surprise, and then continued to ask. "Then there is no limit to your soul power level for your devouring ability?" Yin Hao shook his head. "No, even the titled Duluo's soul power can devour it, but if the difference in soul power is too large, the devouring speed will definitely be slower." Nihuang nodded, then said with a smile, "That's not bad. You don't have to worry about running out of soul power when you fight in the future." After absorbing the soul ring, Yin Hao didn't rush back to Shrek, but took a carriage and followed Nihuang to the direction of Wuhan City. "It's been a long time since I went to see my teacher and senior sister. This time I'll go and have a look. By the way, I want some gold soul coins." After walking for 3 days, the carriage finally arrived at the gate of Wuhan City. Afterwards, Nihuang took out the elder's order and showed it to the guard. The guard didn't dare to neglect him, and immediately put the carriage inside. Enter Wuhan City. Yin Hao and the two got out of the carriage and walked on the streets of Wuhan City. "Brother Hao, don't we go to the Pope's palace to meet the Pope?" Nihuang looked at Yin Hao, who was walking ahead, and asked curiously. Yin Hao casually handed 2 copper soul coins to the vendor selling candid whores on the side, and responded casually. "Then why are you in a hurry? It's been a long time since I went shopping with my sister. Let's go shopping first today." After finishing speaking, he handed one of the 2 candid whores he just bought to Nihuang. Nihuang took the candid horse and opened her mouth to say something, but before she could say anything, Yin Hao blocked her again. Okay, Sister Nihuang, let's go over there and have a look, let's go. After finishing speaking, without giving Nihuang a chance to speak, he waved at her and ran to another place. Nihuang had no choice but to follow after taking a bite of the candid horse. It's quite delicious, why haven't you noticed it before? The other side of the street, in Wuhan City. 2 men and 1 woman also walked this path. One of the men glanced at the stall selling candid horse next to him, and then said to the girl beside him with a gracious smile, Nana, do you eat candid horse on a stick? Let me tell you, the candid horse on a stick here is delicious. Do you like it? Huliena glanced at him, then said calmly, I have no appetite. If you want to eat, you can buy it yourself. Don't forget to buy one for my brother. As soon as Yan heard this, he immediately lost interest in the candid horse beside him, waved his hand and said, Forget it, since Nana doesn't want to eat it, I won't eat it either. If Zai Yue wants to eat it, just buy it herself. Then, without waiting for Zai Yue to reply, he ran to the stall selling trinkets on the other side, picked up a hairpin and said with a smile, Nana, look at this hairpin. Before he could finish speaking, he was directly interrupted by Huliena, who looked impatient. Okay, Yan, I don't need anything. Don't buy me this or that anymore. Are you bothering me? Zai Yue at the side heard Huliena's words, frowned and reprimanded softly. Nana, speak well. Yan, who was standing in front of the stall, seemed to be afraid that Huliena would be angry, so he quickly put down the hairpin in his hand and spoke. Okay, I won't buy it, I won't buy it. Then he turned his head to look at Zai Yue and said, It's okay, Zai Yue, we are all friends, you can't talk about it. Nana can say whatever she wants. Zai Yue looked at Yan speechlessly, as if she felt that it was a waste of saliva to tell him about her sister, and then she stopped talking to him, but turned her head and said to Huliena, It's getting late, let's find a place to eat. Huliena nodded, well, let's go. As if receiving the order, Yan stepped forward again. What would Nana want to eat? I know a good noodles shop, why don't we go and have a look? On the other side, Yin Hao and Nihuang were also a little hungry after shopping. Yin Hao turned his head to look at Nihuang standing behind him and said, Sister Nihuang, do you want to consider eating something? Nihuang took another bite of the candid horse and waved her hands casually. It's all right, you decide. It's all right, the most interesting word in the previous life. I didn't expect to hear it again from Nihuang's mouth today. But anything from Nihuang can be genuine, there is no objection to it. Yin Hao turned his head to look at the surrounding shops, then pointed to a noodle shop that was relatively close and said, Then 8 noodles, let's go. When he came to the noodle shop, Yin Hao took a look at the menu before speaking. Boss, here are 2 bowls of beef noodles, add more spicy. Okay. Yin Hao couldn't help feeling a little funny when he looked at Nihuang, who was sitting across from him, and was still devouring candid horse. Nihuang seemed to have noticed Yin Hao's smile, and took the 2 remaining candid horse from her mouth, looked at Yin Hao and said, What are you laughing at? Have you ever seen people eating candid horse? Yin Hao smiled and shook his head. I just didn't expect that Sister Nihuang, a dignified elder of Wuhan Hall and a titled Duluo, would like to eat candid horse so much and be so imageless. Hearing this, Nihuang's face immediately turned down, and she glanced at the candid horse in front of her again, took a bite and said, then looked at Yin Hao with a sneer and said, If you dare to laugh at my sister again, she will make you laugh as much as you want. Do you believe it or not? Hearing this, the corners of Yin Hao's raised mouth dropped instantly, not because he was cowardly, but because he was laughing for too long and was a little tired. Ha ha ha, brother Hao, you are so cute. After seeing Yin Hao's reaction, Nihuang laughed instead, pointing at Yin Hao and laughing non-stop. Chapter 117, Meeting Huliena and her party. Just then, a voice came from the door. Nana, let me tell you, although this noodle restaurant is not big, the food inside is very delicious, such as the beef noodles here. I really like it before, and it's been a long time since I came here. Listening to Yan talking about the characteristics of the noodle shop, Huliena frowned slightly, and just about to say something, she saw Nihuang and Yin Hao who were chatting. Nihuang was sitting facing them, so Juliana recognized it immediately. Juliana was slightly taken aback. Isn't that Elder Nihuang? Isn't she protecting the safety of Junior and Junior? That other person is. Junior brother. Thinking of this, Juliana's eyes lit up, and she walked quickly towards the familiar figure. Yan was still telling Juliana and the others about the features of this store, but when he turned around, he discovered that Juliana had run away. Yan stared at Juliana's back for a moment, and was about to call Juliana to stop, but thinking that it might make her unhappy, he closed his mouth again. Back to look at Zai Yue said. Hey Zai Yue, what are Nana going to do? Zai Yue glanced at him and said lightly. How do I know? Can't you just go and take a look? After finishing speaking, he didn't care what Yan's reaction was, and walked directly towards Juliana. Yan looked at Zai Yue's leaving figure, hesitated for a moment, and then followed. Juliana walked behind Yin Hao and first bowed to Nihuang. I've seen Elder Nihuang. At this time, Zai Yue and Yan also walked up. When they saw Nihuang, they were slightly startled, and then immediately saluted. I've seen Elder Nihuang. Nihuang turned her head and glanced at the three of them. She ignored Zai Yue and Yan, but looked at Juliana with a smile. It's a coincidence that the saint is here too. Although Nihuang didn't pay attention to Zai Yue and the two of them, they didn't have any dissatisfaction, but stood aside and said nothing. Yan looked at Yin Hao, who was sitting next to Nihuang, and was taken aback for a moment. Why is there a little boy next to Elder Nihuang? Could it be Elder Nihuang's man? So what? Yan thought evilly. Juliana looked at Nihuang and said, Yes. The teacher gave me a rare day off today. I went out for a walk. I didn't expect to meet an elder. Then Juliana put her arms around Yin Hao's neck, lowered her head slightly and spoke. Junior brother, you don't know how to say hello when you see senior sister. Junior brother. Yan and Zai Yue looked at each other and saw shock in each other's eyes. I heard before that Pope Bibi Dong accepted a male disciple and made him the Holy Son. Could it be him? Yin Hao turned his head to look at her and smiled slightly. Isn't it the same if senior sister takes the initiative to fight me? Seeing Juliana and Yin Hao's closeness, Yan frowned, but considering that Nihuang was still sitting opposite, and Yin Hao's identity, he had no choice but to suppress the uncomfortable feeling. Juliana also smiled, bent slightly, put her arms around Yin Hao's neck and said, Why did you go back to Wuhan City? Are you short of money again? Come to ask the teacher for money. Upon hearing this, Yin Hao's smile froze slightly. Although he immediately adjusted it, Juliana still noticed it. Then Juliana looked at Yin Hao in shock. Isn't it? Are you really short of money again? How long has it been? You spent all 800 million gold soul coins. What did you do? You want to know? Yin Hao raised his head and looked at Juliana standing beside him and said. Juliana nodded immediately. Think. Then Yin Hao took her and beckoned, motioning her to come closer. Although Juliana was a little confused, she still leaned her ear towards it. Yin Hao's hot breath hit Juliana's ears, making her itchy. I will not tell you. After hearing this answer, Juliana immediately raised her head, glanced at Yin Hao, who was smiling but not smiling, and then hit Yin Hao twice with slight annoyance. Junior brother, you are naughty again. Okay, stop making trouble. Since senior sister is here, let's sit down and have something together. Yin Hao pointed to the empty seat next to him and said. Before Juliana could speak, Yan, who was at the side, couldn't bear it anymore and took half a step forward to speak. We won't bother Shengzi and Elder Nihuang, we'll just find a vacant seat ourselves. Before Yan could finish speaking, he was directly interrupted by Juliana. Yan, you and my brother can find an empty seat, I'll just eat here. How's Nana? Yan glanced at Juliana in surprise, but seeing her resolute attitude, he could only reluctantly agree. Then he found a vacant seat at the next table to Yin Hao's side and sat down, but his eyes looked this way from time to time. Sitting next to Yin Hao, Juliana glanced casually at the table, then picked up the candied horse that Yin Hao had already eaten and said, Brother, is this yours? Before Yin Hao could answer, Yan from the side came up again. Nana, do you want to eat candied horse? Well, I'll buy it for you. As he spoke, he was about to stand up. Juliana frowned slightly and looked at him, then spoke. No need. Then he turned his head to look at Yin Hao. Then since the younger brother won't eat it, the older sister won't be polite. After saying that, without giving Yin Hao a chance to refuse, he directly bit into it and bit off a whole candid horse at the top. Nihuang raised his eyebrows slightly when he saw this scene, but didn't say anything. Yan on the side frowned and his face became a little ugly. I bought it for you, but you said you had no appetite and turned around to eat what others had eaten. What do you mean? No, Nana probably lost her appetite just now, and she only gained an appetite after she came to the noodle shop. Yan forcibly comforted himself, then turned around and sat back in his seat. Just like this, the meal was finished in such a strange atmosphere. After eating, Juliana looked at Yin Hao and said, "Junior brother, don't you plan to meet the teacher?" Yin Hao glanced at Nihuang at the side and said, "Then sister Nihuang, you go back first. I will follow the senior sister to meet the teacher." Nihuang nodded and did not refuse. "Nana, we." Yan also stood up and looked at Juliana and said. Juliana glanced at him, then spoke. "You and my brother go back first. I'm going to see the teacher." Yan seemed to want to say something else, but was stopped by Zai Yue. Then Zai Yue cupped her hands towards Yin Hao and said, "His Royal Highness, we will take our leave first." Yin Hao nodded with a smile. And Yan, who was standing aside and wanted to say something, was also directly pulled away by Zai Yue. "Let's go, junior brother, I'll take you to see the teacher." Juliana looked at Yin Hao and said, Chapter 118, Bibi Dong suddenly breaks out. The two came to the door of the Pope's palace. The guard was naturally very familiar with Juliana and let them in without any obstruction. Arriving inside the Pope's palace, Bibi Dong was still reviewing documents. Her willow leaf eyebrows were slightly frowned, and there was a trace of tiredness on her charming face. One hand is writing with a pen, and the other hand is holding his cheek, as if relying on this method to take a break. "Teacher." Juliana came to the inside of the Pope's palace and bowed to Bibi Dong above. Yin Hao followed closely behind and bowed in salute. "Teacher." Bibi Dong heard the movement, raised her head and looked down. "Nana, Xirohao is back too." Yin Hao smiled and said, "Yes, I miss the teacher. Come back and see the teacher." Bibi Dong put down the document in her hand and glanced at Yin Hao with a half-smile. "Really, do you miss me or are you short of money?" Yin Hao's smile froze slightly and he immediately spoke. "I mainly miss the teacher, and I'm short of money, by the way." He. Bibi Dong covered her mouth and gave a chuckle, then waved her hands. "Okay, if you are short of money, just be short of money. I have already prepared it for you." Yin Hao was delighted when he heard this, and then immediately spoke. "Thank you, teacher." Juliana looked at Bibi Dong with some confusion. She thought that the teacher should at least ask the junior brother, "What did he do with the money? How do you spend it so fast? I didn't expect the teacher to give me more money without even asking, and he has never been so generous to me." Juliana thought a little sourly. "You don't want to leave when you come back this time. There is still a year to go before the Soul Master competition. Stay in Wuhan City and compete on behalf of Wuhan Palace." Okay, Yin Hao glanced at Bibi Dong slightly in surprise and was about to refuse, but before he could say anything, he thought of something and said, "Teacher, I still have my own affairs. I'm afraid I can't stay here." Bibi Donglu frowned slightly and looked at Yin Hao with some puzzlement, showing a trace of displeasure on her face. Yin Hao spoke immediately. "Teacher, although I won't stay, it doesn't mean I won't represent Wuhandian in the competition." This sentence not only stunned Bibi Dong, but also stunned Juliana, who was standing beside her. "What do you mean, if you don't stay, you still represent Wuhandian in the competition? Could it be that you are split in half?" Bibi Dong thought more and spoke softly. "Xirohao, do you have any special soul skills?" When Juliana heard Bibi Dong's words, she also looked over curiously, wanting to hear what Yin Hao had to say. Yin Hao smiled and said, "Nothing can be hidden from the teacher. Indeed, I do have a special soul skill." "Don't hesitate after speaking. Directly mobilize your soul power, and the blue-silver Emperor Martial Soul will instantly emerge. 6 soul rings, 2 purple and 4 black, also appeared around them. 6 soul rings, Soul Emperor. Juliana opened her small mouth slightly, with an expression of disbelief. She had just reached the realm of the Soul King. She thought it was very high, but she didn't expect that this little junior brother of hers had reached the realm of the Soul Emperor without making a sound. He's just 13 years old this year, right? Juliana glanced at Yin Hao enviously, the 13-year-old Soul Emperor. In comparison, Bibi Dong was much calmer. She just nodded slightly, as if she had thought of something, and a trace of loneliness flashed in her eyes. He is worthy of being his son. Yin Hao naturally didn't know what Bibi Dong was thinking. After summoning the spirit, the 4th spirit ring lit up. The 4th soul skill, Blue-Silver Clone. Following Yin Hao's shout, several blue-silver emperors rose up from the ground quickly entangled and weaved around Yin Hao, and finally became exactly the same as Yin Hao. Juliana opened her mouth slightly, looking in disbelief. Then he walked in front of the clone Yin Hao curiously, stretched out his hand and pinched the clone Yin Hao's face, but was grabbed by the clone Yin Hao. "Senior sister, what do you want to do?" Juliana couldn't help being a little dazed when she heard Yin Hao. The clone making the same voice as Yin Hao. "Junior brother, this." Yin Hao's body walked to his clone Yin Hao, stood together with his clone Yin Hao, and spoke. "How about it, senior sister, can you see the difference?" Juliana looked at Yin Hao's clone, then at Yin Hao's body, and repeatedly used her soul and mental power to feel the two sides, but she still couldn't detect any difference. At that time, it was like trying to feel it with your hands, but before you put your hands on it, you were stopped by Bibi Dong's voice. "Okay, Nana, stop making trouble." Hearing Bibi Dong's words, Juliana withdrew her outstretched hand sheepishly, but still looked curiously at the 2 Yin Haos on the field. Bibi Dong stood up from the papal throne and slowly walked to the 2 Yin Haos. "Avatar Soul Skill." Yin Hao nodded with a smile. "My avatar." Just as Yin Hao wanted to talk about the function of his soul ability, Bibi Dong directly interrupted him by reaching out his hand. "Don't tell me, let me guess. This avatar of yours has 80% of your combat power, and can use all your abilities including domains, and even has the ability to change your face, and it doesn't require you to continuously output soul power. You can also absorb your own soul power to maintain it, right?" After hearing this, Juliana also looked at Bibi Dong curiously. "This thing, can you guess?" Yin Hao was a little taken aback when he heard Bibi Dong's words, but he didn't deny it, but nodded directly. "How does the teacher know the soul skills of the younger brother?" Juliana opened her mouth slightly and asked in shock. Bibi Dong looked at her and smiled lightly and said, "My guess." After finishing speaking, he turned around and walked back to the Pope's throne above. It's just that no one noticed that the moment Bibi Dong turned around, there was a strong look of loneliness in her eyes. Yin Hao frowned, hesitated for a moment, and still spoke. "Teacher, I actually still have a martial soul." Hearing these words, Bibi Dong, who was still walking up, suddenly stopped and looked at Yin Hao in disbelief. Juliana was also stunned, her peach blossom eyes filled with shock. Yin Hao took back the blue-silver emperor, and as a burst of red light flashed, Yin Hao's eyes also changed. The original black and white colors were replaced by red, and a black windmill appeared in the eyes. Then there are 4 10,000-year soul rings in black and black. "Teacher, my second martial spirit is called Sharingen." Before he finished speaking, Bibi Dong's soul power burst out instantly, and he came to Yin Hao in a flash, and when Yin Hao didn't even react, he stretched out his hand and threw him pressed on the ground. A pair of jade hands tightly grasped Yin Hao's neckline, and several emotional changes flashed in the beautiful eyes in just 3 seconds. Love, grief, resentment, distress, and confusion all turned into a hint of resentment in the end. Chapter 119. Bibi Dong's guess. Seeing Bibi Dong's actions, Juliana was startled and said hastily, "Teacher." Bibi Dong seemed to be awakened by this sound, looked down at Yin Hao, then let go of her hands, stood up, and said with a slightly apologetic face, "Sorry, Xiaohao, it was the teacher who lost his temper." Yin Hao still didn't understand what was going on, but no one would feel comfortable being treated like this for no reason. Standing up, he stretched out his hand to pat the dust on his body, and then said something lightly. Fine. Bibi Dong looked at the sharing and pattern in Yin Hao's glasses, smiled self-deprecatingly, and said, I didn't expect you to perfectly inherit your father's advantages. Even the twin martial spirits are exactly the same. Although Bibi Dong said it with a smile, the look of disappointment on her face could not be covered up with a smile. Bibi Dong seemed to have noticed this too, turned her head, was silent for a while, and then spoke. You probably want to use your avatar to stay here, to represent the Wuhandian team. Yes. Yin Hao did not deny it, but nodded and admitted it. I agree. In addition, you can change the appearance of the avatar and participate in another identity. Yin Hao nodded and spoke. Teacher, please tell Zai Yue and others that if you see my real body during the competition, please pretend not to know me. I don't want to reveal my relationship with Wuhandian now. Bibi Dong was stunned for a moment when he heard this. Although he was a little confused, he still nodded and agreed. Okay, I will tell Zai Yue and the others about your request. Is there anything else? Gone. If you don't have any more, just leave. Nana, please leave too. Let me stay by myself for a while. Is teacher. After hearing Bibi Dong's words, Hu Liena hurriedly handed over her hands, and Yin Hao also bowed and turned and walked out. Wait. When they were approaching the door, Bibi Dong suddenly called out to the two of them. Yin Hao turned around and saw a golden card coming towards Hu Zairo. Yin Hao reached out to catch it and saw that it was a golden soul card. Then Bibi Dong's voice came. There are 600 million gold soul coins in this card. You can use it first. Thank you, teacher. After speaking, Yin Hao walked out of the Pope's palace with Hu Liena. After the two left, Bibi Dong couldn't restrain the emotion in her heart anymore. A powerful soul power belonging to the level 99 Extreme Duo instantly swept through the entire Pope's palace. The documents on the table, including hanging lamps and some decorations, were instantly blown away from their original positions by powerful soul power, or simply torn into pieces. Why did you do this to me? Why? Bibi Dong seemed to be going crazy, condensing her soul power with both hands to attack the ground crazily. Her powerful soul power of level 99, even without her martial soul, is not something that the floor can withstand. In an instant, holes were smashed out one after another. 5 minutes later, Bibi Dong sat on the steps panting heavily, staring blankly at her masterpiece below. Ha, twin martial souls, or the same twin martial souls as you, my good junior brother, is this the one you made me wait for? Bibi Dong smiled self-deprecatingly, and said something that may be only she words that I only understand. Suddenly, Bibi Dong stopped smiling. No, this is not right. Bibi Dong stood up abruptly, and looked in the direction Yin Hao and the two left. Can twin martial souls be inherited? Even if twin martial spirits are awakened, shouldn't they be one from each parent? How could he completely inherit his father's two martial spirits? Thinking of this, Bibi Dong couldn't help but feel a bit of speculation in her heart, and turned her head to look at the unfinished documents. Forget it, whatever it does. After just one glance, Bibi Dong withdrew his gaze, and then disappeared into the Pope's palace. On the other side, Yin Hao, led by Hu Liena, returned to the compound where he had only lived for a few days. Back in the yard, Hu Liena did not leave in a hurry, but looked at Yin Hao curiously. Junior brother, how did you cultivate so fast? I remember that when we first met, my soul power level was more than 20 levels higher than yours. Now, less than 2 years have passed, and you are more than 10 levels higher than me. Gone. Yin Hao looked at her with a slight smile on his face, and then spoke. Do you want to know? Hu Liena nodded quickly. Then come here and I'll tell you. After hearing this, Hu Liena wanted to put her 2 ears closer, but she seemed to have thought of something, so she hesitated and spoke. You won't play me again. Yin Hao curled his lips and said lightly. Would you like to hear it? Listen, listen, listen. Hu Liena said quickly. After saying that, Hu Liena moved her face closer. Yin Hao glanced at her with a chuckle, and then took out a jade box from the ring. Hu Liena glanced at Yin Hao strangely, wondering what he was doing. Then Yin Hao opened the jade box, and a strange flower appeared in front of the two of them. This is called Sky Demon Mandala. It is a fairy herb given to you. Juliana looked at the strange flowers that Yin Hao handed over and was still a little dazed. Isn't this? Why did he increase his soul power so fast? Why give yourself flowers? Could it be that? Junior brother likes me. Do you want to confess to me today? Thinking of this, the corners of Juliana's mouth curled up. I said why he always liked to play tricks on me in the past. I'm sorry for being a kid. Why I finally couldn't help it today. Seeing that Juliana was reluctant to take it, Yin Hao glanced at it with some confusion. But he saw her looking at him with a playful smile on her face. Juliana thought for a while and decided that it would be better not to hurt her junior brother's self-esteem. Then, be a little more tactful, junior brother. Although senior sister knows that you may have a little interest in senior sister, you are still young and should focus on cultivation. Don't think about these things all the time. It will not be wrong to come to senior sister when you grow up in the future. It doesn't work. Hearing Juliana talk a lot, Yin Hao not only had a few black lines on his face, but what was it all about? Seeing Yin Hao's reaction, Juliana thought it was her refusal that made her junior brother sad, so she quickly comforted her. Junior brother, don't be sad. Although senior sister didn't agree to you now, it doesn't mean I won't in the future, as long as you practice hard. Before he could finish speaking, Yin Hao stretched out his hand to block the rest of the words. Yin Hao looked at Juliana with a black line on his face and said, "Which eye of yours saw that I was going to confess to you?" Okay, Juliana glanced at Yin Hao in confusion, and you looked at the Sky Demon Mandala in his hand. The meaning was self-evident. You took out all the flowers, is it not a confession or something? Chapter 120, Juliana used it as a shield. Yin Hao took out the Sky Demon Mandala from the jade box, placed it in front of Juliana, and said, "Aren't you asking me why I practice so fast? It's because of this." Juliana glanced at Yin Hao suspiciously, then at the strange big flower in his hand, and then said, "Only by this flower. This is no ordinary flower. This is called Heavenly Demon Datura. It is an immortal herb. Taking it can enhance your soul power and evolve your martial soul." Evolve martial soul? Juliana exclaimed. In Duluo, although there are few treasures that can enhance soul power, they are not absent. However, Juliana has never heard of the things that allow martial souls to evolve, let alone seeing them. Not only that, it will also improve your physical condition, and maybe it will make your skin better. Hearing this, Juliana's eyes immediately lit up. What is the most important thing for a woman? That must be beautiful. If you say that she has low soul power and talent, she may not be in a hurry with you, but if you say that she is ugly, then she will definitely turn against you. Juliana reached out to take the jade box from Yin Hao's hand, but Yin Hao avoided it. Juliana was anxious and hurriedly walked to Yin Hao, hugged his arm and begged, "Junior brother, good junior brother, you can give it to senior sister." Feeling the softness from his arm, Yin Hao raised his eyebrows. "Evildoer, how dare you break my heart?" Just then, a person walked in. "Nana, Nana, your brother is looking for you." As soon as he was halfway through speaking, Yan couldn't continue. His eyes were wide open, and he looked at the scene in front of him in disbelief. Kaka. Yin Hao seemed to hear the sound of heartbreak. In just 2 seconds, Yan's face changed several times, then he gritted his teeth, walked forward, pointed at Yin Hao and said, "Your Highness, what did you do to Nana?" Yin Hao glanced at Yan speechlessly. "She was holding me. You ran over and asked me what I did to her. What are you kidding?" Juliana was also stunned for a moment. She didn't expect Yan to come here, but as she rolled her eyes, she seemed to think of something, and she hugged Yin Hao's arm tightly and pressed her face against him. "Yan, what are you talking about? How could junior brother do anything to me?" Seeing the intimacy of the two, Yan's heart seemed to be broken again, this time more thoroughly. Yin Hao glanced at Juliana speechlessly, but Juliana playfully cast a charming eye at him and gave Yan another crit damage. "I don't accept it, why should he? Nana, don't be deceived by him. Does he care about you? Does he love you?" Seeing the intimate movements between Juliana and Yin Hao, Yan didn't care whether he was a holy son or not, and pointed at Yin Hao and shouted loudly. Juliana seemed determined to take this opportunity to draw a line with him, so she spoke bluntly. "Yan, stop making trouble. We are not children anymore. I am very grateful to you for taking care of me over the years, but I really only regard you as my brother. Now I already have someone I like, so please don't pester me anymore. After saying that, Juliana attached herself to Yin Hao's ear and spoke in a voice that could only be heard by the two of them. Junior brother helps senior sister this time. Senior sister will thank you very much. Yin Hao didn't expect that he would be used as a shield one day, but the situation was already like this, and he probably wouldn't believe it even if he explained it himself, so he said it directly. Yes, Nana is already my girlfriend. Please stop pestering her. Yan's eyes turned red when he heard the two singing harmoniously, and he spoke directly. Do you dare to fight with me? If you lose, you will leave Nana forever. Yin Hao gave him a funny look. Then he pulled his arm out of Juliana's arms, went straight up to Juliana's slender waist, and said with a light smile, Do you think it is necessary for me to fight you? Juliana felt the salty pig's hand on her waist, and after a moment of surprise, she wanted to break free. However, Yin Hao tightened his arms again, then lay down in her ear and spoke. Senior sister, you are acting, don't make trouble, you will be seen, and you don't want to be annoyed by him in the future. Sure enough, after hearing Yin Hao's words, Juliana really calmed down, and after glaring at him fiercely, she stopped struggling and let him hug her. Yin Hao also smiled slightly when he saw that she no longer struggled. Do you want him to be used as a shield? How can we do it without paying a price? Yan became even more anxious after seeing Yin Hao's actions. His eyes seemed to be spitting fire, trying to burn Yin Hao standing in front of him to ashes. Especially when he saw that Juliana did not resist, Yan was even more furious. If I lose, I'll give you my life. How about that? Is that enough? Yan shouted sharply. Yin Hao only shook his head and did not answer. Yan became anxious, stepped forward and shouted loudly. You said, whatever I can get, I can give it to you. I just need you not to disturb Nana in the future. Hearing these words, the 7-foot-strong man who argued that even his life would be given to him if he lost hesitated. Perhaps in his eyes, his own life was not as important as Juliana's. This should be placed in the previous life. I think he is a general in the dog-licking world. Yan glanced at Juliana, who was held in Yin Hao's arms, gritted his teeth and said, Okay, I promise. Hearing Yan agree, Yin Hao nodded. Okay, when do you want to compare? Without the slightest hesitation, Yan spoke directly. Now. Yin Hao naturally would not refuse, he nodded and agreed. Yan doesn't know Yin Hao's strength, but Juliana knows that Yan has just broken through to the Soul King, and Yin Hao is already the Soul Emperor. Although she usually annoys this Yan, after all, she is a friend who grew up together since childhood, and the friendship of more than 10 years is still there. Then he opened his mouth and looked at Yin Hao and said, Junior brother, be gentle, don't hurt him too badly. Yin Hao smiled. Don't worry, I have the numbers. If he had heard Juliana's caring words, Yan would have happily jumped 3 feet high, but now he only felt ashamed, and then he shouted in Juliana's direction angrily. Nana, you don't need to beg him. Life and death are destiny and wealth is in the sky. If the skills are not as good as others, I will admit it. Juliana glanced at Yan speechlessly. This Yan was really. Yan had already walked to the middle of the yard, but saw Yin Hao was still hugging Juliana, and said without any intention of coming over. His Royal Highness the Holy Sun, you didn't get scared before the fight started, did you? Are you going to get up? Yin Hao ignored Yan's shouting, but waved his hand casually, and a person who looked the same as him appeared in front of him. Chapter 121, The Shocked Yan. Looking at the person in front of him who was exactly like Yin Hao, Yan also froze for a moment, and then a feeling of humiliation came to his heart instantly. This is a clone of me with 80% of my combat power, let him fight you. Yan's eyes widened and he looked at Yin Hao angrily, as if he had been humiliated. However, after thinking for a moment, he gritted his teeth and spoke. His Royal Highness the Holy Sun is really courageous. If I win, will the previous bet still count? Yin Hao said while putting his arms around Juliana's slender waist. It counts, of course it counts. If you beat my clone, how about I just admit defeat? Okay, it's a deal. Although Yan felt insulted, he still agreed. The avatar Yin Hao also raised his foot, and walked towards the yard after Yan agreed, and stopped less than 10 meters away from Yan. Turned around and looked in Yan's direction. Please. The avatar Yin Hao stretched out his hand and made a please gesture. Yan Qi was not so polite anymore, he just yelled, and instantly possessed his martial spirit. A phantom of a huge flame giant with 4 horns instantly appeared behind him, surrounded by 5 soul rings, 2 yellow, 2 purple and 1 black. It was his martial spirit, the Fire Lord. Yin Hao glanced at Huliena next to him, then raised his hand, and a rocking chair made of blue-silver grass took shape instantly. Let's go, senior sister, let's stop standing and sit down. Huliena glanced at Yin Hao doubtfully, then looked at the rocking chair with only 1 chair. She was about to ask how she could sit on only 1 chair. Before the words could be spoken, Huliena only felt a huge force coming from her waist, and then her feet instantly left the ground, and she herself flew into the air uncontrollably. What? Huliena exclaimed, subconsciously wrapped her arms around Yin Hao's neck, and Yin Hao also lay down on the rocking chair. After Yan heard Huliena's voice, she quickly looked over and saw Yin Hao lying on the chair, while Huliena was lying in Yin Hao's arms with a shy look on her face. Huliena also reacted immediately, twisting her body and trying to break free. What are you doing? Huliena had a slight reproach on her face, and just as she wanted to get up, Yin Hao pulled her back into her arms. Yin Hao gently placed his head on Huliena's shoulder, then placed his mouth next to her ear and whispered softly. Senior sister, that Yan is watching over there. If you stand up now, it would be a bit revealing. Huliena was stunned for a moment after hearing this, and then glanced in Yan's direction with the corner of your eyes, only to find that he was really looking at her. Then he gritted his teeth, looked at Yin Hao angrily, and stopped resisting, and lay down in his arms. Yan's eyes suddenly turned red when he saw this scene, but he didn't say anything, but immediately turned his gaze back to the direction of his clone Yin Hao. The second soul ring on his body lit up. The second soul skill, Granite Rock. As Yan shouted, his right hand also changed instantly. A yellow-brown rock with red magma stripes replaced the original flesh and blood body. The entire fist was more than 3 times bigger and roared towards the clone Yin Hao. What? The veins on Yan's face were bulging. It was obvious that he didn't show any mercy in this punch, and he didn't save his strength because of Yin Hao's status as the son of God. It seemed that he wanted to settle the battle with 1 blow. The clone Yin Hao stood there and watched Yan's fist getting closer and closer to him without any movement. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to Infinite Novel Audio. Seeing this scene, Yan, who already felt insulted, felt even more humiliated, and the strength in his hands could not help but strengthen a bit. Huliena also turned her gaze over and saw that Yan's fist was about to hit the clone Yin Hao's face, and she didn't see any movement from the clone Yin Hao, so she couldn't help but become nervous. Senior brother. Huliena looked at Yin Hao under her and shouted anxiously. Yin Hao gently put his arm on her shoulders, raised his hand and stroked her head like a kitten, and said softly, "Don't be nervous, never do anything you're not sure about." Huliena didn't care about the movements of Yin Hao's hands at this time. She was engrossed in watching the battle on the field. Just when his fist was about to hit the clone Yin Hao, a smile appeared on Yan's lips unconsciously. However, something unexpected happened to him. When his stone fist stuck to Yin Hao's body, the contact feeling he imagined did not come, but directly pierced through Yin Hao's body under his shocked eyes. Passed. Huliena was also stunned. She blinked her eyes to make sure she saw it correctly. Her fist passed through, although Yan, the person involved, was shocked. His reaction was not slow. Seeing that the attack failed, he immediately raised his other hand and struck the clone Yin Hao's direction. This time he didn't pass through, but Yin Hao, the avatar, disappeared without a sound 1 second before Yan's fist was about to hit him. Yan's eyes widened with a look of disbelief. Before he could react, he felt a mysterious force coming from behind him. Out! A wailing sound came from Yan's mouth, shaking the birds on the narration tree to fly. And Yan himself jumped 3 feet high, lying on the ground holding the middle of the pee-pee with a face full of pain. Shameless! Huliena blushed and cursed, then turned back and stopped looking at the situation on the field. That's what the clone did. It doesn't care about my business. Humph! Yan wailed for a full 10 minutes before clasping his thighs tightly and standing up unsteadily. He stretched out his index finger and pointed at the clone Yin Hao while trembling. He seemed to have noticed something was wrong, and then turned around and pointed in the direction of Yin Hao's body. You are shameless. Yan held it in for a long time, and in the end he could only express his feelings at this time with "you are shameless." Soldiers never tire of deceit. Yin Hao didn't seem to like him and said directly, "I don't accept it. Do you dare to fight me upright?" Yan crossed his legs and spoke in a very strange posture. Before Yin Hao could reply, Hu Liena spoke first. "That's enough, Yan. You just broke through to the Soul King, and my junior brother is already the Soul Emperor. What are you going to use to fight him?" Soul Emperor. This sentence made Yan stunned, and he looked at Yin Hao in disbelief. Yin Hao didn't hesitate. The blue-silver Emperor martial spirit emerged, surrounded by 6 spirit rings, 2 purple and 4 black. 6-ring Soul Emperor, 4,000-year soul rings. The evidence was in front of him, and Yan had to believe it even if he didn't want to believe it. Then he smiled self-deprecatingly. Tee, ha ha ha. After a while it turned into laughter, which made both Yin Hao and Yin Hao look stupid. The two looked at each other. Although there was no verbal communication, their eyes revealed the same sentence at the same time. This kid can't be stupid, can he? Chapter 122, BB Dong, It's Really You. After laughing for a while, Yan slowly lowered his head. Then, resisting the discomfort coming from behind, he stood up straight and looked at Yin Hao's body, who was lying on the rocking chair and holding Hu Liena in his arms. "It's because I'm not as skilled as others, I admit it. I will abide by the agreement and won't pester Nana anymore, but..." Speaking of this, Yan raised his head again with a serious expression on his face. "I hope you can treat Nana well in the future. If one day I find out that you bullied her, even if I risk my life, I won't give up with you." After speaking, he turned around and walked out with a limp. This means there is no sound, otherwise Yin Hao would have wanted to sing "One Cut Plum Blossom" for him. And many more. At this moment, Hu Liena seemed to have thought of something and stopped Yan, who was about to leave. Yan also turned his head immediately after hearing Hu Liena's voice, looking at Hu Liena expectantly. Hu Liena hesitated for a moment, but still spoke. "Well, Yan, please take this avatar of junior brother to the college to go through the admission procedures. It is quite troublesome, and the junior brother is not familiar with the place, so please help me." Hearing these words, the originally expectant expression on Yan's face was instantly shattered again, but he still nodded and agreed. Afterwards, Yin Hao waved his hand again, and the avatar who had the same appearance as him changed instantly, and the original iconic blue hair was quickly replaced by black hair. Yin Hao took out a grimace mask from the ring and threw it to the avatar. After he put it on, he watched him leave the yard with Yan. Actually, this Yan can be regarded as a man. He will do what he says, and he can afford it and let it go. Yin Hao lay on the rocking chair and hugged Hu Liena's slender waist and said, "Have you had enough hugs?" Hu Liena did not answer Yin Hao, but looked up at Yin Hao and said, "Uos forgot too deep into the drama." As Yin Hao spoke, he reluctantly took his hand off Hu Liena's slender waist. Hu Liena, who was finally let go by him, stood up quickly and jumped out of Yin Hao's arms. Then he said with a slight blush, "Actually, Yan has taken good care of me since he was a child, and I have always regarded him as an older brother. However, I really have no feelings for him. I hope he can find someone better than me in the future. By the way, quickly give me that mandala plant. You didn't want to give it to you just now, but I won't give it now. Unless you beg me." "Impossible. That's good junior brother. Junior brother senior sister is wrong. Good junior brother, you can give it to senior sister." No one noticed, but on a tree less than 500 meters northwest of the yard, a beautiful woman in purple witnessed all this. Immortal herbal medicine, Shenwei, it's really you. BB Dong opened her small mouth slightly and muttered something to herself that no one could understand except her. Of course, no one heard it except her. Yin Hao had been staying in Wuhan City for more than 20 days, and it was almost time, so he proposed to BB Dong the idea of leaving. Wuhan City, inside the Pope's palace. Bibi Dong sat on the Pope's throne, and Yin Hao and Hu Liena stood below. "What, are you leaving so soon?" After hearing Yin Hao's request, Bibi Dong became agitated, her brows were wrinkled. She stood up directly from the Pope's chair and looked at Yin Hao reluctantly. Yin Hao felt a little uncomfortable being looked at by Bibi Dong, so he hurriedly spoke. "Yes, I originally wanted to stay here for a few more days, but I have things to do in the next few days, and it will be delayed if I stay later." Yin Hao didn't know why, but he always felt that something was wrong with the way Bibi Dong looked at him during this period. Sometimes he was nostalgic, sometimes happy, and sometimes full of love. Anyway, Yin Hao felt that Bibi Dong looked at him as if he wanted to eat himself into his stomach. Even Zhu Zhuking's eyes were not as enthusiastic as hers. Not only that, when he first apprenticed 2 years ago, Bibi Dong only looked for opportunities to teach him from time to time during the day, and usually the time would not exceed 2 hours. But this time was different. For more than 20 days, she came to Yin Hao to teach her homework from time to time, and she often found an excuse to dismiss Hu Liena and teach Yin Hao alone. This made Hu Liena jealous and felt that Bibi Dong was partial. When Bibi Dong heard this, she seemed to understand Yin Hao's decision, and the reluctance in her eyes became even stronger. Then he sighed and said, "Okay, then you can go, let Nihuang protect you, after all, you have been together for so many years." "Thank you, teacher, I'll take my leave." Yin Hao cupped his hands and said. Bibi Dong opened her mouth, as if she wanted to say something more, but in the end she swallowed it back, nodded and said, "Then you go." Hu Liena also stood up and spoke. "Teacher, then I'll go see my junior brother off." At this time, Hu Liena didn't have much change in appearance compared to before, but her every move was more charming than before, and every stubborn smile seemed to stir people's heartstrings. Not to mention men, even women of the same gender, with weak willpower, are afraid that they will be broken. After leaving the Pope's palace, Yin Hao first found Nihuang, and after having a meal with Hu Liena, he left Wuhan City with Nihuang. The gate of Wuhan City. Hu Liena was standing next to a carriage, chatting with Yin Hao until the sun was about to set, when she was interrupted by the somewhat impatient Nihuang Duluo. "I said, Your Highness, even if you don't want to part with your lover, you can't keep him forever. The sun is almost going down. If you don't let us go, we have no choice but to leave tomorrow." Hearing the word lover, Hu Liena blushed and said immediately, "Elder Nihuang, you don't talk nonsense." Seeing her like this, Nihuang just smiled and didn't speak anymore. But Hu Liena was too embarrassed to continue to hold Yin Hao to prevent him from leaving. She just took out a letter from the storage soul guide on her wrist, handed it to Yin Hao, and said, "Junior brother, the teacher asked me to give this to you. He said that if you go to Tiandu City, the things here will be useful to you. I will leave first." After speaking, he fled and ran back to the city. Yin Hao glanced at the envelope in his hand, then shouted at Hu Liena's back. "Sister." Hu Liena, who heard the voice, looked back. "Goodbye." Hu Liena also waved her hand and shouted, "Goodbye." After speaking, he turned and returned to Wuhan City. And Yin Hao and Nihuang also got on the carriage back to Soto City. No one noticed that in a corner on the wall of Wuhan City, a beautiful figure wearing a purple robe and a crown stood there. His red lips opened slightly, and he spoke in a voice that could only be heard by himself. "Goodbye, junior brother." Chapter 123, Daimyo by being adopted. Yin Hao, who sat on the carriage, looked at the envelope in his hand, and then tore it open with some curiosity. There was nothing special in the envelope, just an ordinary letter. Yin Hao picked up the letter curiously and read it. "Qian Renxu, the holy maiden of the Hall of Worship, a level 73 soul sage, a Wuhan seraph, is currently in Heaven Du City. Now pretending to be the crown prince of the Heaven Du Empire, Zhu King." Yin Hao's carriage did not stop on the road, but went directly back to Soto City. Returning to Soto City, Yin Hao did not rush back to Shrek Academy. Instead, he first got the parts he had asked them to build in the blacksmith shop. After assembling all 8 godly huge crossbows, they prepared to leave Suotuo City. But just when Yin Hao was about to get in the carriage and leave, he saw a scene that completely shattered his 3 views. On the road not far away, a middle-aged man with a big belly was hugging 3 outstanding women. On the left is a pair of twins with exactly the same appearance and dress. They are exactly the twin sisters that Yin Hao met with Dai Mubai at the Rose Hotel when he first came to Soto City. On the other side is a tall and curvy beauty, wearing a white JK and a pair of black stockings, which looks very tempting. Of course, this is not the point. The point is that that woman is Dai Mubai. I saw the middle-aged man holding Dai Mubai's slender waist with one arm and using the other hand to tease Dai Mubai from time to time, almost completely ignoring the twin sisters on the other side. Dai Mubai didn't refuse either, and very obediently cooperated with the middle-aged man's mopping behavior, like a docile kitten, provoking the middle-aged man to show a wretched smile from time to time. The younger twin sister was unhappy. "Master Kylie, how can you only be close to Sister Dai? You're making us sisters jealous." "That's right, if your lord is so biased again, our sisters will ignore you." After hearing this, Kerry also laughed, and then raised his other arm around the younger sister's slender waist. "How could it be, my little beauties, I love you all the same." As he spoke, he kissed each of the twin sisters on their faces, making them both feel shy. But it was just that, after the kiss, Kylie turned his eyes back to Dai Mubai again. As the nephew of the Lord of Soto City, he is also a rich man with countless net worth. What kind of woman hasn't seen him? But it was the first time he had seen a special woman like Miss Dai in his arms. Among other things, just a word of novelty made him fall in love with her, not to mention that she was so beautiful. The twin sisters looked at each other and saw a hint of helplessness in each other's eyes. If they had known better, they would not have introduced Dai Mubai to him. They thought that the three of them were acquaintances, so it was nothing. "I didn't expect that this little bitch could really compete for favor. Since she came, the two of them have almost nothing to do. But it doesn't matter if you fall out of favor, getting the money is the most important thing." Thinking of this, the twin sister took the initiative to walk to Kylie, put his arm into her, and said coquettishly, "Master Kylie, the 2,000 gold soul coins you mentioned a while ago." Speaking of this, even Dai Mubai next to him looked over. He still owes Yin Hao tens of thousands of gold soul coins, even though Yin Hao didn't mean to press the debt, but he always felt uncomfortable, and he still owed it early good morning. He also hugged Kylie's other arm and said, "That's right, Lord Kylie, what you said can't be ignored." Feeling it, the smile on Kylie's face became more and more obscene. "Forget it, how could it not be counted? Not only counted, I can also add a little more for you." "Really, then thanked you, Lord Kylie," the twin sister said happily. "But as for how much to add, it depends on your performance tonight," Kylie said wretchedly, while stretching out two chubby hands to mop Dai Mubai and the twin beauties. "Master Carey, you hate." Seeing this scene, Yin Hao's perspective was completely broken. Seeing that several people were about to walk over, he hurried into the carriage to avoid bumping into them. Soto City is not particularly far from Shrek Academy, but it is only half an hour's journey by carriage. It didn't take long for him to return to Shrek Academy. After saying hello to Lei Yusong, the gatekeeper, he walked into the college. At this time on the big playground, everyone in Shrek except Dai Mubai was gathered together, and Tang San was in the middle. Tang San rubbed his eyes to relieve the discomfort in his eyes. "Tang San, why did you call us all here?" Zyro Wu asked with some puzzlement. Tang San glanced at Zyro Wu, then took out a bunch of strange claws from the 24th bridge on a bright moonlit night, and distributed them to everyone. It was a cylindrical object made entirely of metal. The whole body was silver in color. It looked somewhat similar to the hidden arrow, but it was larger and thicker than the hidden arrow. In order to let everyone see more clearly, Tang San rolled up the sleeve of his left arm, pulled both hands, and half opened one side of the barrel to form a shape consisting of two semicircles. Everyone saw that inside the barrel fleece lining inside. Tang San buckled it on his left forearm. The length of the tube just covered his left forearm completely. He adjusted it first, then shook his arm. The tube was completely attached to him on his arm. There was no slight sway, and it seemed to fit perfectly. "What is this, Tang San?" Enning Rongrong held up the flying god claw in his hand and asked. "This is called the flying claw. It is a powerful weapon. Let me demonstrate it to you." After speaking, Tang San raised his left arm towards a big tree about 20 meters away, straightened his thumb violently, only heard a whoosh sound. The steel claw attached to the arm guard popped out like lightning, and brought her the shining light flew out in the blink of an eye, and with a puff, it directly grabbed into the tree trunk. Immediately afterwards, Tang San straightened his ring finger, tapped his toes lightly on the ground. His body was like an offline arrow. Under the pull of the steel cable, he jumped onto the big tree in the blink of an eye, lightly tapped the toes on the big tree, and relying on the pull of the flying claws, the whole person is stretched across the tree trunk. In some special terrains, the flying claw can play a very good role. At the same time, it can also be used to catch people. The length of the steel cable is 30 meters, and the contraction force is about catties. As long as our weight does not exceed 300 catties, you can use it to climb to a certain height. Chapter 124, Enning Rongrong, who visited the dormitory at night. Just as Tang San was explaining the flying claw, Yin Hao also walked over. What else to talk about? Hearing this voice, the eyes of everyone in Shrek were instantly attracted, and saw a handsome young man in white clothes, with long blue hair blowing in the wind, walking towards the side. Brother Hao. After seeing Yin Hao, Zyro Wu threw the flying god claw in her hand to the ground, and rushed towards Yin Hao. A flash of excitement flashed in Enning Rongrong's eyes. Just as he took half a step, he saw Zyro Wu had already rushed out, so he had no choice but to retract his legs. Why have you been gone for so long? Zyro Wu misses you. Yin Hao gently comforted Zyro Wu, hanging on his body with his hands. Okay, am I coming back? Zhu Zhuqing stepped forward, gave Zyro Wu a cold look, and then spoke to Yin Hao. Brother Hao, long time no see. Long time no see, Zhuqing. Tang San and the others hurried forward to greet Yin Hao, and when they asked about Grandpa Yin Hao's illness, they were also fooled by Yin Hao's false alarm. Then Tang San took out a flying god claw from his belt and handed it to Yin Hao. Brother Hao, this is for you. I made one for everyone in Shrek, and I have one for Boss Dai. I will give it to him when he comes back. He probably won't come back today, Yin Hao said in his heart. However, he still smiled and took the flying god claw. Thank you for the mistress, I have something for you too. After speaking, he took out the godly huge crossbow that had been prepared and distributed it to everyone. Enning Rongrong, who got the godly huge crossbow, still looked at the tube with more than a dozen holes in doubt, not knowing what it was for. Tang San frowned slightly. This thing. Why does he feel a little familiar, but it seems that he can't remember it. This is called the godly huge crossbow. It is a lethal weapon. Have you seen these holes? As long as you press this switch, 16 extremely powerful crossbow arrows will be fired, which can be fired for 3 rounds. There are 48 arrows in total. These crossbows don't have much defensive ability at all below the Soul Sect. Even a Soul Master at the level of the Soul Sect can only hate the Northwest when facing a relatively dense crossbow. Tang San was even more surprised after hearing this. Why is this thing so similar to the hidden weapons of the Tang Sect? As for Oscar and the others, they simply doubted, looking at this gadget in their hands. How could this thing have such great power? Yin Hao also noticed their suspicious appearance, took out the prepared steel plate and put it on the ground and said, the thickness of this steel plate is 2 centimeters, which is almost similar to the defense of a high-level Soul Master. Let's try it. After finishing speaking, he put the steel plate on the spot and walked in another direction until he was about 10 meters away from the steel plate. Tang San and the others also looked curiously at Yin Hao on the field. I saw Yin Hao raised his hand, pointed the godly huge crossbow in his hand at the steel plate not far away, lightly pulled the trigger. 16 crossbow arrows shot out from the holes in an instant and struck towards the steel plate not far away. Whoosh! With a crisp sound, 16 holes were shot out of the originally intact steel plate in an instant. If it were to hit a person, the result, one can imagine. The field fell silent for a moment, and everyone was quietly looking at the steel plate that had been shot through, with their mouths slightly open, looking very surprised. This should be placed in the hidden weapons of the Tang Sect, and I am afraid it can be ranked in the top 10. Tang San compared the hidden weapons of Tang Sect in his previous life in his heart, and then thought to himself. How is it, do you believe it now? Zyro Wu was the first to express her opinion. I know that Brother Hao never lies to others. Yin Hao's smile froze slightly when he heard this sentence. It's not a lie if he didn't see it. Zhu Zhuqing also gave a rare smile. Certainly. Several other people also expressed their views, one after another. Enning Rongrong looked at the godly huge crossbow in his hand, and at the steel plate not far away that had been shot through. Something seemed to come to mind. Our 7 treasures glazed tile pagoda soul masters basically don't have much attack power, but if each of us can equip one of these then. Thinking of this, Enning Rongrong raised his head and looked at Yin Hao, who was still talking to everyone not far away. Brother Hao can't be at a disadvantage. If he wants to, he can ask his father for more money. Anyway, he is not short of money. First he wants 1,000 million. Shouldn't be many, right? Not much. Enning Fengzhai, sincerely, not many. Yin Hao and Shrek talked about the old days, but did not do anything, and it got dark not long after. At night, Yin Hao went back to his room, sat on the bed and waited for something. Sure enough, when it was almost midnight, Yin Hao sensed a female soul master with soul power fluctuations walking towards him through the blue-silver domain. As expected, this little cat is greedy for this young master's figure again. HMPH. Yin Hao thought badly. But in the next second, he couldn't laugh anymore, because not one person rushed over, but 2. Besides Zhu Zhuqing, the other one is Enning Rongrong. Although Yin Hao had established a relationship with Enning Rongrong before, he really didn't do anything to Enning Rongrong. At most he just kissed, touched. Therefore, Yin Hao was very surprised by her bold move this time. I don't know what Zyro Wu would think if she knew about it. At this moment, Zyro Wu was sitting in the room, looking out at Enning Rongrong through the window. Enning Rongrong seemed to be a little hesitant, and looked back at Zyro Wu, with a hint of retreat on her face. Zyro Wu glared at her somewhat resentfully, opened the window, and shouted to the outside with a suppressed voice. Rongrong, hurry up. Hearing Zyro Wu's words, the hesitation on Enning Rongrong's face didn't decrease. On the contrary, it became more intense. Zyro Wu, otherwise let's do it next time, if someone sees. Zyro Wu rolled her eyes and continued. What are you afraid of? This is the academy. If you are seen, just say you have something to do with Brother Hao. Besides, who is looking at you in the middle of the night? You are a night owl. But there's nothing wrong with it, that's all I'm saying. Brother Hao has never been a proactive person. If you're scared now, just wait. After saying that, Zyro Wu stopped talking and closed the window directly, and then drew the curtains inside tightly. Hearing Zyro Wu's words, Enning Rongrong struggled, then gritted her teeth and went. It's just that neither of them noticed that there was really a night owl, lying there in the grove in front of Shrek's dormitory. Chapter 125. Zhu Zhuqing originally planned to go to Yin Hao's room to check up as usual, but as soon as he left the house, he heard movement behind him before he had even taken 2 steps. In desperation, Zhu Zhuqing could only find a place to hide in a hurry, and finally hid in the weeds in the woods. Did not expect to see this scene. Not taking the initiative, what is this Enning Rongrong going to do? Zhu Zhuqing frowned slightly, looked at Enning Rongrong who was walking towards the boys' dormitory, and also raised his footsteps to follow. Enning Rongrong came to the boys' dormitory, hesitated for a moment, and then stepped in. After turning the corner, he came to the door of Yin Hao's room. But Zhu Zhuqing followed her all the way, and stopped when she saw her coming to Yin Hao's door. Why does Enning Rongrong come to Yin Hao so late? Could it be that? A not-so-good suspicion quietly arose in Zhu Zhuqing's heart, and she suddenly felt as if there was something extra on her head. Enning Rongrong stood in front of Yin Hao's door. The hesitation on her face reappeared. She bit her lip lightly and hesitated at the door. At this moment, a voice came from the room. Who is outside? Hearing this voice, the hesitation on Enning Rongrong's face seemed to disappear, and then Xin Yiheng said, It's me, Enning Rongrong. It's Rongrong. The inside seemed to be a little suspicious about Enning Rongrong's arrival, but then there was the rustling sound of getting dressed. With a creaking sound, the door was opened, and the sleepy Yin Hao appeared in front of Enning Rongrong. Rongrong, what's the matter so late? May. I clearly thought about what to say just now, but when I saw the real person, all my previous thoughts were swallowed back, so I couldn't say a complete sentence. Yin Hao lightly smiled and helped her comb the messy hair on her forehead, and then said, Just tell me anything, what's wrong with me? After hearing Yin Hao's words, Enning Rongrong seemed to have made up her mind, stepped into the house, looked into Yin Hao's eyes and spoke. Yin Hao, I miss you. After speaking without waiting for Yin Hao's reply, she stood up on tiptoes and blocked Yin Hao's mouth. Of course, she also closed the door behind her. Yin Hao didn't expect Enning Rongrong to be so direct at first, and for a while, Enning Rongrong, a rookie, took the initiative. But after he reacted, he immediately started to counterattack, and Enning Rongrong's proficient skills made Enning Rongrong retreat in a row, and finally he could only follow his rhythm. 5 minutes later, Yin Hao let go of Enning Rongrong, whose face was already flushed, and said softly, "Rongrong, have you thought about it yet?" Enning Rongrong lowered her head and spoke in a voice like a mosquito. If Yin Hao's hearing wasn't sensitive enough, he wouldn't have heard clearly. However, he didn't make it difficult for Enning Rongrong. He picked her up with his backhand and walked toward the bed with a chuckle. At the same time, Zhu Zhuking's face outside the door was ashen, and a pair of cat's claws were holding a stone from nowhere. Then with a snap, the seemingly hard stone was crushed by her directly. It's not that she didn't think about rushing in directly, but Yin Hao's soul power level is much higher than hers, usually in Yin Hao when he is unprepared, plus using all the soul power at once to succeed. But if you rush in now, you are definitely asking for trouble. After thinking about it for a while, Zhu Zhuking took 2 deep breaths, trying to calm himself down a bit, then resolutely turned around and left the place. However, she did not go back to her dormitory, but chose to go to the small woods near Shrek Academy. Arriving at the simple little shed with ease, Zhu Zhuking became angrier as he looked at the bamboo bed that had been used countless times. Then he directly summoned the martial soul, swung his claws down, and the bamboo bed broke from the middle instantly. Seemingly still puzzled, Zhu Zhuking walked out of the shed again, the second light on his body, and the nether 100 claws activated. In an instant, countless purple-clawed shadows flew towards the bamboo shed, and then hit the bamboo shed heavily. The bamboo shed didn't hold on for even a second before it was torn to pieces. Cole! After doing all this, Zhu Zhuking took a deep breath and calmed down a little. Enning Rongrong. Zhu Zhuking's silver teeth were tense, and his cold face seemed to reveal a trace of murderous intent. She only hated that her lack of strength allowed Enning Rongrong, a little bitch, to take advantage of her. No, teacher, I still have a teacher. The teacher must have a way to help me improve my cultivation. Thinking of this, Zhu Zhuking's eyes lit up, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. He hurriedly searched for it in his storage soul guide, and finally found the telepathic jade that his teacher had left for him. Looking at the exquisite jade pendant in front of him, Zhu Zhuking had a sickly smile on his face. As long as I raise my cultivation base, we can be together forever. Ha ha ha. There was still no class the next day, but Yin Hao politely greeted Flender and other teachers. Naturally, Flanders asked with great concern how Yin Hao's sickly grandfather was doing. When he heard Yin Hao's answer that it was okay, he felt relieved. However, after learning that Yin Hao had become the sole emperor, his expression was no longer so calm, and he stood there dumbly for 2 minutes. After that, he laughed and cried for a long time, and he didn't know whether he was happy for Yin Hao, sad for himself, or both. As for Yu Zirogang's side, it's much simpler, just 2 words: regret. His expression was as if he had eaten 2 kilograms of fly excrement, and there was no taste at all. Why did he choose to accept Tang San and give up Yin Hao at that time? Look now, Yin Hao is the sole emperor, and Tang San is still hanging around as the sole emperor. No, Zyrosan has twin martial souls. When he starts to practice the second martial soul, he will start with a 10,000-year level soul ring. This is when he really rises strongly. This is definitely not something Yin Hao can compare to. He forcibly comforted himself with a few words, which made him feel a little better, but his expression was still ugly. As for Enning Rongrong, because she was not feeling well, she stayed in her dormitory all day and did not come out. At this time, a voice came from Enning Rongrong's dormitory. Rongrong, how do you feel? Are you comfortable? Zyro Wu looked at Enning Rongrong excitedly and asked. Enning Rongrong slapped Zyro Wu with a hint of shame and anger, and then quickly covered her head with a quilt. Don't ask. Zyro Wu gave Enning Rongrong a funny look, then stretched out her hand to lift the quilt. Why are you shy? It's just the 2 of us here. Besides, it's not like I haven't tried. Oh, you still say it. Hearing what Zyro Wu said, Enning Rongrong became even more shy, lying on the bed, face down and buried her face deeply, making Zyro Wu laugh non-stop. Zhu Zhuqing outside the door paused slightly after hearing this laughter. Then he looked at the heart jade in his hand, and the corners of his mouth slightly curled up. This morning the teacher has already written back to her, telling her that he will wait for her in Tiandu City. Just laugh, when I improve my cultivation, I will take Yin Hao away. When the time comes, I'll see if any of you can still laugh. Zhu Zhuqing murmured to himself, then quickened his pace and left the place. That's it for today's chapter. If you enjoyed it, like, comment, and subscribe to Infinite Novel Audio. For more stories, check out my other channel AI Otaku Studio, and I'll see you in the next chapter.